About all rules, we make them up as we go along.
Homes that are occupied may see an ebb and flow in the price, but you're not going to see the collapse that you see when people talk about a bubble.
Die quickly. That's right. The Republicans want you to die quickly.
I don't worry about the Constitution on this, to be honest.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and
this liberal will be all about socializing, basically taking over, and the government running all of your companies.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
We will keep this promise. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period.
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
So just leave it to the Hollywood left to make a really great movie, and when conservatives sit up and say, hey, we love this movie, they just can't stand that. I mean, I'm guessing the American Sniper movie was supposed to be, what, a complete flop or something like that? Is that what Hollywood was expecting there, that nobody would actually go see it, something like that? Well, okay, Michael Moore is the one who opened his big mouth the biggest during the course of the weekend, so we're going to take a look at that too. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Monday. Phone number to get involved in the show, real simple, 307-363-4093. That's 307-363-4093. And, of course, pretty much everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more, thank you, Dan, is on my website, which is at boldrepublic.com. So here's what happened over the weekend. So, of course, yes, the movie comes out about American Sniper. You've heard about it, of course. You already know who the character is. If you listen to a radio show like this, you already know who I'm talking about. And I guess it was supposed to be a big box office flop or nobody would care or something like that, but it turned out to be a huge hit and made over $100 million just during the course of this weekend. So here comes Michael Moore. Now, we all know who this sniper was, but for those who may need a refresher course, guy did 4 tours of duty and broke records as a sniper with most kills. Came back to America after his 4th tour and married. They have a child. He was working at with people who with post-traumatic stress disorder at a gun range. He would take fellow soldiers who were just having a hard time after being through war like that, and he was taking them to gun ranges to get them used to, you can shoot, but that doesn't mean you're going to be in a warlike situation. Learn to relax, a little camaraderie, and it was working well. Except for one guy who was a little too far gone and I guess freaked out on him, and so an American hero lost his life while trying to help a comrade after struggle with his PTSD. So, of course, you write a book about that. Are you kidding me? Of course that becomes a book. And it was already out, I believe, before he was killed. But then, of course, after his death, well, then the thing becomes a bestseller again. So is Hollywood going to make a movie out of this? Well, there's a lot of reasons Hollywood would make a movie out of this. I mean, it's a lot of guns, shooting, action, adventure. It's also a real story and a bestseller, and they would salivate over the money that they would make over this. So, of course, Hollywood goes and makes a movie out of it. Now, I'll get to the bozos in Hollywood who are outraged at how well the movie did. But let's get to Michael Moore. During the course of the weekend, this idiotic fat slob comes out and says, well, snipers are cowards. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what he said in his tweet in just a moment here because he tweeted this. But my answer to that, first off, right off the top of my head was, okay, Mike, you lard butt you, let's just go ahead and give you, and you're allowed to be with one other guy, that's your spotter, and we're going to drop you in Afghanistan, just up in the mountains somewhere. Now, I'm going to start a stopwatch, and let's see how long it takes before your shorts are full. Yeah, I'm thinking, Mike, you're not going to last very long there, just out of sheer panic alone. And you tell me these guys are cowards. And not all snipers operate that way, by the way. We're going to get into that in just a moment. I'm no expert on snipers, but I know this. How many times have you guys called this show and asked me a question, and I just flat out said to you, you know something, I don't know enough about that to give an intelligent answer, so please understand if I just keep my big, stupid mouth shut. See, I know to do that. Michael Moore, however, doesn't. So, okay, here's exactly what he said in the tweet, and we're going to pick it apart. Michael Moore tweeted, "My uncle killed by sniper in World War II. We were taught that snipers were cowards. We'll shoot you in the back. Snipers aren't heroes, and invaders are worse." I assume, knowing Michael Moore as we know him, that he's saying that Americans are invaders. Well, I just assume that's what he means, that the invaders would be us, Americans. But okay, let's put that aside for a moment. So apparently during World War II, Michael Moore's uncle was killed by a sniper. Let's take a look at in a situation like that, when you're fighting in that kind of urban environment in Europe. I'm assuming this is in Europe. Guy was killed by a sniper. Well, what is the job of a sniper? It's not just the long-range target. But when you have a squad moving through a neighborhood, you tend to put somebody up high to cover them. So when they have to move out someplace that's vulnerable, there are eyes on targets out there taking down those targets, who, by the way, what would they be doing? Sniping our guys. And where's this idea of chivalry anyway? I mean, look, gone are the days when people would meet out in the battlefield, one-on-one, eye to eye, draw their swords, and go at each other, man on man, mano a mano. When's the last time that happened? We haven't fought like that in a long time. Yeah, there was a time when we marched and when it didn't seem like it doesn't make sense to us today, but in those days it did make sense. If you wanted to concentrate your firepower, you would have all your soldiers together with their muskets, which took a long time to load and were not very accurate. And so you would group your men together. Everybody wore bright uniforms. You marched around in the field. You faced your enemy. How long has it been since we fought like that? That kind of warfare doesn't happen much anymore. And so the sniper is no different than anybody else with any other kind of weapon, as far as I'm concerned. Everybody's content. Well, if you're on the battlefield during the course of a war, you're fair game. What is the enemy supposed to step out in front of you and challenge you to draw at high noon? Is that what's happening? No. People get hit from all different directions by who knows what kind of weapons in war today. So the idea that we're supposed to meet and face, and if you don't, you're a coward, it just isn't done that way anymore. And hasn't been done that way for a long time. But once again, Michael Moore doesn't know a whole lot. This tells me that he doesn't know a whole lot about war, and does, as usual, doesn't know what he's talking about. Just like when he did his movie Capitalism, a Love Story. And he's trying to tell us that he knows a whole lot about capitalism. He doesn't know anything about capitalism. If you saw the movie, you'd understand that. Doesn't understand the first thing about even what money is or how money works, even though he's made a lot of it. Didn't understand that. He had to come to an understanding that he made his money through capitalism. He didn't think that he had. It was pointed out to him on a television show by fellow liberals, and he finally gave in to the idea. There's Michael Moore for you. And he continued. You know, I don't think I really want him to shut up. No, really, I don't want Michael Moore to shut up. I need the show prep here. So, okay. Of course, the tweet from Michael Moore that snipers are cowards and will shoot you in the back. Hey, so will the enemy, Mike. Of course, got a lot of hate tweets back, and he's been getting emails and Facebook and so on, and so he's trying to walk it back a little bit. All right, well, we already know who Michael Moore is. Let's get back to the rest of Hollywood now, because this has been, and he hasn't been the only one. This has been really interesting. Seth Rogen. Now, I hate to say this, I recently defended Seth Rogen. After Michael Moore makes his comments about American Sniper, Seth Rogen comes out and says the movie American Sniper is just American propaganda. And he compares it to Nazi propaganda. Well, here's what he had to say. And I don't know what it is about the positive image of someone like this, but okay. So, I'm trying to remember the name of the movie here. Oh, yeah, here we go. Inglourious Bastards. Here's what Seth Rogen tweeted. This is one thing I like about Twitter is people think that they're safe and can make comments like this. So Michael Moore made his stupid comment that snipers are cowards. Here comes Seth Rogen. American Sniper kind of reminds me of the movie that's showing in the third act of Inglourious Bastards. And if you never saw that movie, so Hitler goes to see a movie, and he's in a movie theater in France, and the movie that he's seen is about a Nazi sniper. Okay, that one's easy to pick apart. Hey, Seth, I'm really sorry that I defended you now with your North Korean movie, but okay, listen. Hey, Seth, this is simple. When the Nazis put out propaganda movies, the way they did it was to tell the movie industry in Germany that you're going to put out this kind of movie that glorifies the following in order to influence the people in this way. See, that's a propaganda movie. And if you think about it, even during World War II, the American government put out propaganda movies. That's what a propaganda movie is, in case you didn't know. There, Mr. Rogen. I don't think he knows. So let's take a look at what happened with this movie, American Sniper. Well, we have quite literally a record-breaking sniper. I mean, when you take a look at the number of kills and the situation he was in, wow. And in general, his life story is the life story of a decent man. Loves his country, loves his wife, they have a kid. I mean, this is nothing but just an amazing story. So, of course, it was written up into a book. Some publisher would have approached him and said, hey, this is a great story, let's write it up. After it becomes a bestseller, then he is killed and it becomes by somebody who's trying to help, and it becomes a bestseller again. Of course, Hollywood's going to take a look at that, and wow, double-time bestseller, we better make a movie out of that. Of course they did. So does that sound like propaganda? Like the United States government approached Hollywood and said, you're going to make this kind of movie to influence the American people in this way? And does it really sound like the kind of movie that the Obama administration would come out with to influence people in a certain way? Considering how the Obama administration thinks of the military, their lack of understanding of military affairs, would the Obama administration ever turn to Hollywood and say, this is the kind of movie that you're going to put out and here's why? I just don't see that would ever happen. So, no, Mr. Rogen, I don't think you can turn and say that this is some propaganda-style movie. But hold on. Got one more, because there's a lot of people in Hollywood upset that this movie was such a hit over the weekend. I'm going to tell you about it next. Okay, so the snow is melting out there. So just for those who are living in the Wyoming, Montana, Dakotas area, just about the time when you're finally done sliding around on all of the ice, now you've got to slosh through the mud. And this morning when I was getting into my vehicle, I looked at the floor right around the pedals and went, holy cow, what a mess that is. And wouldn't it be a lot better if I had some kind of a vehicle that was better at handling mud, not just, well, I mean, you want to handle mud, but you want to be able to handle snow and sleet and ice and all of that. Any one of those vehicles, from big four-wheel drive vehicles to fun vehicles, is in anybody's auto magazine, and you can find that in grocery stores, restaurants, convenience stores, buy, sell, trade, and if you want a vehicle to get out of this mess for a few weeks, they have RVs as well. That's Anybody's Auto Magazine. Bold Republic would like you to visualize no more war, no more terror. Visualize world peace.
Glenn, I think they meant world peace.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. You can't eat that.
No, calm, no war. Peace.
Yeah, what sense does that make? I mean, I got the peas, I got the bacon over here, I got...
No, peace! Calm! Peace!
Like the opposite of what you are right now.
Yes!
Hi, my name is Jacqueline McKinney, owner of Fast and Furious Detailing. Do you need your RV or toy hauler cleaned? We will get it ready for you, so all you have to do is go have some fun. Or how about after fun, we can clean it up. We will even wash all of your bedding for you. Does your boat have dark film all around the outside of it? No problem. Fast and Furious Detailing is a full-service detailing company. We detail cars, SUVs, trucks, RVs, toy haulers, boats, ATVs, UTVs, and motorcycles. Fast and Furious Detailing hopes you can find everything you need. Our company is focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. With a variety of offerings to choose from, we're sure you'll be happy working with us. We're located at 5753 South Winland Drive, and our phone number is 307-682-2470.
Daydreaming, son! It's time to get prepared! Time to get off your sofa and run yourself down to Surplus Unlimited in the Gun Traders building! Oh, my! 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Civilian soldier, they got everything you could need. That's right, the Surplus is unlimited. Surplus Unlimited ammo for babies and adults.
That's right, babies need camo too.
10 different styles of camo.
Oh, don't you look pretty.
550 cord, numerous colors, wool blankets, boots, hats, gloves, coats, shirts, tactical vests and belts, camping supplies, high-quality army cots, and that hard-to-find P38 can opener. Save time, save money. Surplus Unlimited in the Gun Traders building. 801 Carlisle on the Douglas Highway across from the fishing lake. Gillette, Wyoming.
I'm Professor Burke from Farmers Insurance, and this is 30 Seconds of Smart. So you want discounts on your home insurance. Upgrade your roof. Upgrade your plumbing. Get a burglar alarm. Get a fire alarm. Combine policies with your spouse. Bundle your coverage. Quit smoking. And, of course, talk to farmers, because the more you know about home insurance, the more you can save.
We are farmers.
Get smarter about your insurance at farmers.com.
Stop by and see Lyle Austin, 201 West Lakeway Road in the Lakeway Professional Center, 686-5002. That's 686-5002.
Jenkins!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jenkins, I'm not so hip on this interweb thing like most people.
Well, that's been painfully obvious, sir.
It has?
Well, like when you tried online dating using a company computer.
Well, let's not talk about that.
Sir, your mail-order bride is still waiting in the lobby.
Honestly, I just thought we were going out for a few drinks.
Sir, having to buy her a plane ticket from Vietnam to the local Starbucks must have set off some red flags.
So I think I've established that I have no idea what I'm doing.
Not to worry, sir. I've had all computers removed from your office.
Oh, good thinking.
So what's the problem now, sir?
Well, it seems that North Korea has hacked into our company website.
Yes, sir. I saw your image has been replaced by a short, fat, obnoxious dictator with the funny haircut.
So how do we fix it?
I already have, sir. I just replaced the dictator's face with another short, fat dictator's face with the funny haircut.
Really? Whose?
Yours, sir.
Brilliant, Jenkins.
No one in either country can tell, sir.
Good thinking. So, which girl in the lobby is my date?
The one with the postmark on her forehead, sir.
That makes sense.
Hello. Yes. I think Glenn is going to take your call next, but don't call him Glenn. He wants to be called Pasty White Guy. Oh, no. He takes it as a compliment. Trust me. Wait, here we go.
Back to the show. back to Glenn Woods.
It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. If you want to call the pasty white guy, that'd be me. 307-363-4093 is the phone number. That's 307-363-4093. So, okay, let's wrap up this whole thing with Chris Kyle and the American Sniper movie. So because they're all freaked out over what the box office success was, 105 million last count opening weekend, American Sniper. What does that mean for the culture on Oscar night? Especially when a movie about Martin Luther King Jr., who we celebrate today, wasn't even nominated. But okay. Hollywood left and the left in general right away freaking out over this and starting a campaign. So let's see. So I've already talked to you about Michael Moore, a piece of garbage that he is. And by the way, Clint Eastwood, what a perfect director for this thing. Clint Eastwood, holy cow. He's turned out to be an incredible director. But, I mean, movies like this, wow, this is good. So, okay, the propaganda push isn't subtle here. Michael Moore, we just got done talking about him. Seth Rogen compared it to Nazi propaganda. The rap Steve Pond fired the biggest salvo yet with an extensive piece about backlash brewing among the left-wing Academy members. Apparently, they're all passing around a New Republic article that defames Chris Kyle as simply just a killer, more like a serial killer, in other words. This is how they compare the guy. Quoting from the story in front of me here, over the weekend, multiple Academy members told the Wrap that they had been passing around a recent article by Dennis Jett in the New Republic that attacks the film and the making of the hero Chris Kyle. Quote, the enemies are savages and despicable evil, and his only regret is that he didn't kill more. And so basically they go on to say that he just wanted to kill everybody in Iraq, and the guy was just a serial killer. So that's how they see people like this who volunteer and go back 4 times over and then come back and start helping out people with PTSD. To them, they're just a bunch of murdering pigs. Now, note, Pond doesn't use quotes around the word Iraqis in his story. What he's doing here is turning Kyle's word enemy into the word Iraqis. So they don't look at anyone that Chris Kyle shot in this thing as an enemy. In fact, there's even a scene, I got to see the movie just for this. There's even a scene in it where there is a young boy who is given a, it looks like an RPG by his mom. And Chris Kyle's on a rooftop and got the kid in his sights, and he's trying to figure out, does the kid who's now running toward the U.S. soldiers mean to attack the squad, or is he trying to turn the sucker in? And that's where Clint Eastwood leaves you in the previews of the movie here, and he's got a decision to make. But, of course, we know how the Hollywood left portrays our military and the hypocrites they are when it comes to, well, lots of gunplay and explosions sell, but then they have to get up on their high horse and tell you that they're for gun control, don't want you to own a gun. And at the same time, they have bodyguards. We know who these people are. And once again, there's no sense of reality. You think that Hollywood is completely separated from the real world? They're no better than the people in Washington, D.C. They don't know how the real world works. That's who we're hearing from right now.
The truth about savings and consumption. We've all heard that consumption and spending grow the economy. Turns out that's wrong. In fact, the exact opposite is true. It's savings and production which make the economy grow, not consumption and spending. Here's a fact. Society wouldn't become wealthier if everyone just ran out and bought boats and houses and cars. If that were true, the larger everyone made their credit card debt, the wealthier we'd be. Something seemed fishy. Think about it this way. A healthy economy is made up of goods and services people want. If we want to understand why some economies have a lot of goods and others few, we have to ask just how does the amount of goods in an economy grow? In one word, production. Let's look at a family farm. How much food they produce depends on how much they work. When they work, their total amount of food increases. When they eat, their total amount of food shrinks. This consumption isn't a bad thing. It's really the whole point of working in the first place. But if they want to sustain themselves, their production must outpace their consumption. What if they decide to build a plow to help increase their productivity? With a plow, they could produce twice as much in half the time. Well, plows don't just pop out of thin air. It takes time to make them. And while it's being constructed, those workers won't be producing any food. They'll just be consuming it. That means they'll need to save enough food beforehand to eat while they work. Without those savings, there's no way for them to take time to build a plow. They'd run out of food. Once it's finished, they can produce more efficiently, and the total amount of goods will grow. On top of that, because they no longer have to worry about starving, time is freed up. They can now choose to produce other goods or services, or just relax and enjoy their free time. And this is what happens in the large-scale economy. Factories and bulldozers don't just pop out of thin air either. They have to be constructed with a pool of savings as well. Here's how it works. In a free market, when people save their money and don't spend it, capital piles up in banks. In turn, this money is lent to entrepreneurs who use it to purchase or create equipment, which expands their business and increases their level of production. And get this, the more goods that are being produced, the more savings that become available. As this pile of savings grows, even larger loans become available to even more entrepreneurs. This makes an economy grow exponentially. All of this is made possible only by savings. Without it, there wouldn't be any capital available to borrow, and economic expansion would come to a halt. An economy based on consumption and not production can only last until there are no more goods to consume. To learn more about sound economics, visit fee.org.
Hello?
Hello, sir. This is Bob at the NSA.
Funny, I was just thinking about you.
Yes, sir, I know.
You know, this relationship really is getting creepy, or beyond the creepy that it was before.
Sir, I was calling you because your best friend is getting married at 2:30 p.m. this Saturday. And, well, he'll be arriving late, unless you help him with that flat tire.
How did you know he was going to get a flat, Bob?
National security, sir. I'm not allowed to say.
So I guess you guys will be attending the wedding.
In a manner of speaking, sir, yes. And the divorce, 3.5 years later.
So, yes, Glenn is pro-gun, but we only let him have one bullet, and we make him keep it in his pocket.
Sound familiar?
Inside that man's body is a little child calling out for help.
Let's get back in there. Here's Glenn Woods.
It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Phone number to get involved in the action, 307-363-4093. That's 307-363-4093. And, of course, pretty much everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more. My website is boldrepublic.com. But hold on just a moment, because there's a few things locally that I just got to get off my chest. And I'm actually going to tie them in. I'm going to start locally, and I'm going to wind on out to the national level, and you're going to notice a pattern here. So locally, the city government that I'm in, well, they're all Republicans, apparently. And they will all tell you that they're conservatives. Okay. Yet they just can't seem to stop spending money. Between the county government and the city government, we have several projects out there that are nothing but giant money pits, and they just keep building bigger money pits. The latest one, for those of you who live in Gillette, Wyoming, not the Field of Broke. No, I had no idea. Until they pulled a fast one. You know, every Friday on this program, for those who watch by video, we have the Friday photo bomb at the end of the show. Instead, they come in with this piece of paper, slam it down in front of me, walk out the door, knowing I would completely freak out over it on the air, and I did not disappoint. Here's what this reads. From the City of Gillette Aquatic Park Public Open House. Yes, an aquatic park. Public open house. Please join us to determine the aquatic features you would like. So they don't know how big this thing's going to be, what kind of features, what kind of money. They just know they have to spend a lot of money. Look, we already have right across the highway from where I am right here, there's a hotel with a big indoor swimming facility that's like an aquatic park inside. And you can pay a couple of bucks to go there. The county built a rec center in this town that has a big Olympic-sized swimming pool and an aquatic park with big, slides and all that kind of stuff. Some people were saying that hey, look at these. This would be free. It would not be free. Get the idea of free out of your head. Hey, with single-payer health care, we can get free health care. What do you think your taxes are going to be? Every time somebody says free, do me a favor. If you ever hear somebody say in front of you, free health care, do me a favor. Just look at them and say, Glenn Woods would like to officially call you an idiot. And then if you would have the telephone number for this office here on your cell phone, and just call me and explain that, hi, I'm standing in front of someone who just said they wanted free health care. And then hand the phone to them, and so I can call them an idiot personally. I'll do that. They get a free swimming pool. Oh, so it's not going to, all of the material is going to be donated, all of the labor is going to be donated, and all of the yearly upkeep is going to be donated. So it's all going to be completely free, huh? There's no bills to pay on this at all? None? Free. All right, Gillette Aquatic Park Public Open House. And you're supposed to go there and take a look at the features. It's Thursday, January 29th at 6 p.m. And it says it's going to be at the Gillette College Presentation Hall, Gillette, Wyoming. Okay. All right. Here's the problem here. These guys just keep finding new ways to spend money, spend money, spend money. And when I got online, I just wanted to get online and talk a little bit about this and gauge what the public reaction was. And it was pretty much mixed, There were those people who were against it because of the cost. There were those people who were for it and didn't see what the cost would be, didn't understand that. And I knew this was coming. Someone had to turn immediately and say, hey. Oh, line one is Entrepreneur Dave. I'm sorry to keep you waiting there, Dave. Hi, how have you been?
Oh, been busy. I just thought I'd better call in and talk about the local government.
Yeah, and that,
they got done with that Field of Dreams thing, sort of, kind of done. And
they have not even begun on that. Oh my God, no. But anyway, they got one phase of it done.
And now they're talking about Bicentennial Park. The old soccer fields and baseball fields.
Yeah.
They're talking about redoing that for millions of dollars because it's over 20 years old.
Right. And where's this aquatic park supposed to go in? This is the first I've heard about this. Yeah, I don't know what the location is supposed to be, though. They just say that they want this aquatic park now.
Do you know where the old one is?
Yeah, but that's being built.
Center?
Yeah, but that's being, they're putting an old folks home there. so it wouldn't be there.
Aquatic Center out over the Gurley Overpass?
Oh, no, I'm thinking, I didn't know that old. No, I just remember the one that was, where they're putting the old folks home?
Yeah, that was the old rec center.
Yeah, they had a aquatic park there, slides, and a pool. So, okay.
Yeah,
well,
the Aquatic Center for the high schools is out north of Gillette over the Gurley Overpass.
Okay.
By the National Guard Armory in that baseball field. The American
That's
Legion.
where they're going to go with this? Okay. Like they have the money for this. Okay. And what gets me is everybody that I've talked to that's in favor of it seems to think that we are an endless money pit out here. Well, now, Entrepreneur Dave, here comes the EPA shutting down coal mines and coal power plants all over the country, and there's tire towns in Kentucky and Tennessee that used to be bustling little towns, and those towns are ghost towns now. And here comes an oil glut that is laying now because of it. Price of gasoline and oil and so on has dropped, and now people are being laid off at the rigs. But we have all the money in the world to do this, don't we?
Well, doesn't the city just print it up?
No, that's the feds that do that. But hey, every single city that's gone down this path winds up broke during the bust times, and some have had to file bankruptcy. So I guess they're determined to make us just like everybody else.
But do you know anything about the influx of all these people into Gillette? Like, weren't there supposed to be thousands and thousands of people coming in?
Yeah. Well, they think they're going to get thousands of people in if they keep building, facilities like this, but it doesn't work that way.
No.
Not really, no. People come in for jobs, not a water park. All right,
Dave.
Dave.
300 lifeguards.
Yeah. Thanks for calling, Dave. I appreciate it.
Garnet is the birthstone for January. Did you know that garnet comes in many different colors? We have several different colors in stock. The word garnet comes from the Latin granatus, which means seed-like. This was because garnet crystals reminded early scientists of pomegranate seeds. Anciently, garnet was considered the gem of faith, constancy, and truth. It was also believed to have curative powers. This is Bruce at Marshall Jewelry here in Gillette, and we have a huge selection of garnet jewelry with prices starting at around $200. Come see the selection and prices at Marshall Jewelry, where she'll love it, guaranteed.
Ah, yes. Football season. You could watch the game at home, but then you'd have to get up to get a beer.
Honey, hey, can you get me a beer?
And your best friend is certainly no help. You could invite your friends over, but then you'd have to clean up after them. So forget home. This football season, head down to Jack's Liquor, your adult daycare center. They have the snacks, they have the drinks, and they'll bring it to you. All your friends are there, and you don't have to clean up after them. $3 bottles of 16-ounce Bud or Bud Light during the football game, all season long. Jack's Liquor and Bar, your adult daycare center. 302 East 2nd Street, Gillette, Wyoming, across from Napa Auto Parts.
Are you looking for employment in the energy industry? True Companies are hiring. The True Companies consists of several companies in the oil, gas, transportation, and agricultural business. Black Hills Trucking is currently hiring mechanics in Gillette and Casper, Wyoming. Belfouche Pipeline Company is currently hiring gaugers in Gillette, Wyoming, and North Dakota areas, roustabouts in Wyoming, and pipeline controllers in Casper, Wyoming. These are full-time positions with competitive salary, 100% funded profit-sharing plan, vacation, life insurance, family health, tuition, reimbursement, 401k, employer match, safety awards, and incentives. Must be able to pass an employment drug screening. You can view all current positions at TrueCosts.com. That's TrueCos.com. True Companies are an affirmative action, equal opportunity employer.
Hello, Americans. This is Rod with your local American-made store here in Gillette, Wyoming, where it's always made right here in the USA. Have you seen our stainless steel art? It's beautiful. Yes, and he will do custom. Framed artwork. Check out our selection. Top-of-the-line stuff, olives, flavored olive oils. And yes, we have toys and Okabashi sandals. Free pocket constitution with purchase. We are the solution for this great nation. Get informed. Don't forget your veterans. God bless America, and buy American. It matters. MyMadeInAmericaStore.com.
Do yourself a favor. Don't just listen to the show. See what Glenn's talking about at BoldRepublic.com. There you can watch the show live on YouTube or download the show and listen to it later. Now let's get back in there. Here's Glenn Woods.
So, yeah, the money just grows on trees. Those people that I was talking to about local spending and constant government money pits here locally in the town that I live in. Oh, but you live in coal country. Yes, and here comes the EPA. Did you guys not keep up with the news? They swear to me when I asked them that question, don't you guys pick up a newspaper now and then? Yeah, I read the news all the time. then don't you know about these towns in places like Tennessee and Kentucky that are now dead ghost towns because the EPA came in and did what? Shut them down. And BLM's working on it too. And so here we are, a coal-producing town, a glut in the oil market and gas market, and all of a sudden, oh, here we go, people being laid off on the oil rigs. So even though there's plenty of energy here to harvest, we can still go through another boom time. How many people do you know that get a job that's a pretty well-paying job? First thing they do, got to buy that house. Oh, but here comes the new car. Got to have a second new car, too. There comes the boat. There comes what? Snowmobile? Depends on where you live. Oh, they got to get that big screen TV in their house and all new furniture, and on it goes. And now they're working overtime because they can pay their bills with the regular salary, but that doesn't count for food on the table and gas in the car, cars, boats, and other such toys. So in order to live, they have to work overtime until the work slowdown comes, and then all of a sudden they're just completely screwed. And who screwed them? They'll blame the job, they'll blame the mines, they'll blame the president. They did it to themselves. And yet when you look at cities across America, there's city after city after city across America doing exactly what my town here, Gillette, Wyoming, is doing. Hey, let's go ahead and build another money pit because the money will be here forever. It'll just keep on flowing in. And it'll attract people to our town. That's not what attracts people to the town. Jobs do. With that big field that they opened up for the Field of Broke. And no, the Field of Broke is not complete. That was just one of the phases that they completed. They have a long way to go on this thing. And it's going to cost a lot of money, not just to build, but for the upkeep of the thing. But they tried to hide the costs from you as best they possibly can because you would be outraged if you knew how much it really was just to build and how much it was to constantly maintain. Then they turn to you and say, well, you're going to have this for free. The hell we are. People have to pay taxes on the upkeep and all of this kind of stuff. No one's getting this for free. There's towns all and cities all across America that are going bankrupt because of projects like this. And it's about time we just stopped. And yet the very people who tell you that, oh, we're the conservatives, we have the best. Take the big field that you have there, and instead of building ballparks and water parks and all this kind of stuff, you know what you do instead? Is you invite industry in and jobs. The other stuff will come. Private industry will bring all of the entertainment. The city shouldn't be involved in that. City owns a big piece of land, fine. Encourage businesses to come in. This is a great place to work, but currently we rely on just one industry out here, and that's energy, and that's not diverse enough. If the city were to get involved in anything, it would be diversifying business. Now, I just got done last week was complaining about the federal government, and the Republicans started this. Oh, we have about $160 billion shortfall over 10 years. In road repair for our interstate highway system, so we're going to have to raise your taxes. No, if they just got spending under control. I can think of where a lot of useless programs like this Field of Broken water park on the local level, the feds do the same thing on a national level. Stop spending like that, and you have more than enough money for these projects. Quit the wasteful spending. I just came across a story today from the state of Nevada. The governor of the state of Nevada with a Republican House, he's a Republican House and Senate. We've got to raise money for schools. They have plenty of money for schools. They have more than enough money for the schools in the state of Nevada. But again, it's the Republicans who want to raise the taxes. In fact, they spend more money per student in Nevada than most states do on students. So apparently, but their test scores are some of the worst. So apparently throwing money at the problem isn't the issue. I thought these were conservatives. I really did.
The NRA takes Pennsylvania lawbreakers to court. Hi, I'm Jennifer Zarn with this week's News Minute from your NRA ILA. On behalf of our 5 million members, the NRA has filed lawsuits against the cities of Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Lancaster for refusing to comply with a state law that prohibits local governments from enacting gun control measures meant to intimidate or confuse gun owners. These cities have openly defied state law for decades, yet affected residents had no recourse to get the illegal laws off local books. Thanks to a recent change in Pennsylvania law, however, groups and individuals can now sue to enforce the state law. The illegal ordinances in question do not make people safer. They are simply tools to further a gun control agenda and infringe on the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Our message is clear. These cities must follow state law and stop infringing on the rights of law-abiding gun owners in Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, in Texas, the NRA is backing joint resolutions to protect the right to hunt, fish, and harvest wildlife. The resolutions, HJR 61 and SJR 22, would protect Texas's hunting heritage for generations to come by ensuring that future wildlife conservation and management decisions are based on sound science. Adding the right to hunt and fish to the Texas Constitution is critical to protecting sporting traditions against the ongoing and well-funded efforts by extremist groups to ban hunting.
Sorting through the nonsensical nonsense that makes your life a living hell. It's Glenn Woods. OldRepublic.com.
It's a Monday edition of the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Phone number if you want to get in like Entrepreneur Dave did just a moment ago, 307-363-4093. That's 307-363-4093. And as always, pretty much everything I'm talking about, a whole lot more on my website is boldrepublic.com. So what I'm complaining about right now is, once again, the town that I'm living in has found another way to dig another money pit and spend a whole pile of more money. And it's always for the children. It's always for the good of the community. Well, what's good for the children, what's good for the community is if you didn't put your city into debt. Oh, but we'll have plenty of money because, you know, we produce electricity and coal, which the EPA is trying to shut down. When do you guys wake up about this? All right. And every once in a while, when I talk about an issue like this, somebody gives my show a call here and says, well, you know, and they usually sound like that to me. Well, you know, there's nothing we can really do to stop it. I mean, they're going to do this no matter what we do. They always find a way. You know why they get away with it? Go down to a city hall meeting and find out how many citizens actually show up. If you and your friends disagreed with a project like this, then get together with you and your friends, get a petition together, show up at a city hall meeting, pack the place, and don't just do it once. The first time you show up with a small group, the second time you show up with more people, the next time you show up with more people than that, just keep showing up. That's how you shut these things down. Now, let me go back to Nevada for just a minute, because this is a great illustration of what's happening across the country, and it doesn't matter what political party we're talking about here. It just doesn't matter. In this case, we're talking about Republicans. So in Nevada, their test scores for their kids, the graduation rate for the kids is among the lowest in the country. And yet, they spend more money per student than most states in the country. So what's the answer from the governor there? Well, time to raise taxes on education so we can get more dollars into the schools. And I guess the governor hasn't figured it out yet in that state, is because apparently money is not the problem. Obviously, money is not the problem. If you're spending that much money per student and getting that kind of result, money's not your problem. Now, get a load of this. I stumbled across this while you guys were listening to that last affiliate break. Headline, Forbes magazine writer to those whiny businesses out there. He writes, if you want better education, try reaching into your pockets. Okay. And I couldn't get into the whole thing about what this Forbes writer has to say. But the answer to the Forbes writer, real simply, is, oh, we spend enough money on education here in America. We certainly do. This idea that we have to keep throwing money at it. Here, let me give you a great example. There's so many I can use. But let's go back to something that hasn't been talked about in a while and we need to look into and bring it up again. Let's go to the VA hospitals. You know the mess at the VA hospitals. We're all aware of the wait lines, people literally dying waiting to see a doctor, and the lousy care, and then on it goes. The fake lists that they made to make it look like people were seeing a doctor in time. We all know the scandal. So what was the answer of Congress to fix the problem? Well, we're going to take several $1 billion and we're going to throw it at the problem. And so since then, what has been the result at the VA hospitals? There's been absolutely no change at the VA hospitals. So apparently throwing money at it wasn't the problem, wasn't the solution to the problem. It wasn't a money issue. It was a cultural issue that you got to solve. So whether you're talking about a local city that just can't seem to stop spending money and just think the sky's the limit, to taxes for schools, to fixing the VA hospitals. Oh, we just need more of your money. Now, on that note, I came across a story. This has to do with a senator, I'm going to go back locally now, who lives actually just up the road from this radio studio here. Senator Enzi was interviewed. And he had this idea, comprehensive tax reform. Sounds great, doesn't it? But remember, this is the guy that wants an internet sales tax, and we've all talked about how complicated that's been. And I thought long and hard about this morning, and I came up with a simple answer. Here's the headline. Enzi to work on comprehensive tax reform. U.S. Senator Mike Enzi, Wyoming, will co-chair a working group focusing on reforms of individual income taxes. The Wyoming Republican group is one of two separate groups formed by the Senate Finance Committee to spur comprehensive tax efforts. And you would think that's a good thing, right? Officials say the group will analyze current tax law, policy trade-offs available for reform, and this will actually include things like a business infrastructure, internet sales tax, all of that. Here's really the answer here. Hey, Senator Enzi, we don't need an internet sales tax. Local governments make enough money. City governments make enough money. County governments get enough of our money. State governments get enough of our money. The federal government gets enough of our money. You know who needs more of our money? We do. We earned it. It's ours. We need to keep more of our money. And you guys in government need to figure out how to spend less of it. Don't want to hear any more of this nonsense. It comes from both parties. Notice the Republicans have the House and Senate, and not just on the federal level, but on a state level. They own the House and Senate and governorships across the country. Here comes the tax increases, just like the Democrats would have done.
Only in school systems the things that continue to fail, we put more and more money. And sure, we should try to fix them. But at some point, all you're doing is throwing good money after bad. And worse than the money is the kids.
I'm Catherine Mengue-Ward for Reason TV. Joining me today is Joel Klein, the former chancellor of the New York City schools and the author of a new book, Lessons of Hope, How to Fix the Schools. Could you start just telling us a little bit about why you wrote the book and what's in it?
Sure, Catherine. I really wanted people who are not part of the education system to get a feel for what it's like inside the largest, most complex bureaucracy in America, the New York City public school system. 135,000 employees, 1.1 million children. Second reason I wrote the book is I am convinced that if we don't dramatically change our education system, we as a country are going to pay an enormous price for it.
So Bill de Blasio is launching a new $150 million program to do wraparound services and try and improve failing schools. What do you think about that?
Wraparound services are always a good idea, but if in the end they don't hold schools accountable for performance, they're going to pay a big price for that, I think.
The thing you're most famous for is closing failing schools. Can you talk about sort of why you went that route as opposed to dumping more money into failing schools or somehow trying to rejigger them? Why shut the doors?
When you get a culture of failure that continues to repeat itself, at some point you need new beginnings, and we insisted on that. It made accountability real. The people in the school knew that if they kept doing the same things, that they weren't going to be able to continue to survive as a school. And we felt that sending kids to perpetual failure factories, hoping and wishing for change, is not a winning strategy. You know, only in school systems, the things that continue to fail, we put more and more money. And sure, we should try to fix them. But at some point, all you're doing is throwing good money after bad. And worse than the money is the kids who you know are consigned to a future and to a school that won't work for them.
Per pupil spending went up quite a lot during your tenure. Was the money worth it?
Yeah, because it brought better teachers to the system.
And is that where the money went, for teacher salaries?
By and large. I mean, it went to other things as well, but 43% raise in teacher salaries directed a lot of money. Some of it went for capital improvement, some of it went to lower class size in the earlier years, but most of it went not just teacher salary, principal, assistant principal, and so forth. And again, I would rather spend the money more rationally, but attracting more committed teachers, higher performing teachers, higher prepared teachers really matters.
You got some pushback on spending some of that money on outside consultants to sort of work with the schools and the principals. Do you think those consultants were worth their weight in gold in the end, or?
Not every consultant is worth his or her weight in gold, but most of the money we used for outside consultants came from private monies we raised from charitable foundations. We raised hundreds of millions of dollars because people saw what was going on in New York. It's a real transformational city. We had the mayor there for 12 years. I was there for 8.5 years. Some work we did with consultants we tried and didn't work particularly well. But that's inevitable. But one of the things that troubles me is that if you don't try new and different things, then the school system won't change. And if you do try new and different things, not everything you do will work. Not everything in Silicon Valley turns out to be Facebook or Google. And we've got to try, and we've got to be willing to innovate, and that risks not succeeding in everything you do, and that happened to us.
Let's cut to the chase. This is a national problem.
We just heard from Jeb Bush, the opening keynote address here. Would you vote for President Jeb Bush?
I never get into politics. I worked for President Clinton. I'm a Democrat, and I just hope whoever gets elected president does the right thing for schools, because that's so critical to our nation's future.
That's a very diplomatic answer. I'll ask
8 years of chancellorship,
Yeah.
you learn a little diplomacy.
I'll try to ask you a more diplomatic question then, which is, if a hypothetical education reformer managed to win the White House, what would you want to see him do first?
I think anybody in the White House ought to really do two things. One, focus and draw national attention to this issue. America is not performing globally where we need to perform. Our kids are not performing. Right now, some 40 to 50 to 60% of our kids are graduating from high school wholly unprepared for what's ahead of them. It's not a winning game. Second thing I would like to see is the federal government use its efforts, use its money to stimulate much greater choice so that our kids get the opportunities across the board. That to me is a critical policy that will bring both competition, energy, and dynamism. Third thing, focus on innovation. And just yesterday, President Obama had a conference in the White House trying to drive innovation, which I support wholeheartedly.
Thank you very much for taking time to talk with us.
Thank you.
So, yes, Glenn is pro-gun, but we only let him have one bullet, and we make him keep it in his pocket.
Sound familiar?
Inside that man's body is a little child calling out for help.
Let's get back in there. Here's Glenn Woods.
Not even mass corruption, not even a smidgen of corruption. Okay.
The IRS has been targeting conservative groups.
Do you believe that there is not a smidgen of corruption in the IRS targeting of conservatives?
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully exercise my Fifth Amendment right.
Tales. Stories made up from whole cloth. Lies.
Another day, another delay related to Obamacare.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimating Obamacare will cause Americans to leave the workforce.
Her monthly premium jumps $260. I have not done anything wrong. I have not broken any laws.
The missing emails extend from 2009 to 2011, a period when Lerner headed the IRS's Exempt Organizations Division.
And that was the same time the IRS was using unfair and biased criteria to target and punish conservative groups.
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
This hour of the Bold Republic Radio Show is sponsored by global warming, or global cooling, or climate change, or climate disruption. Whatever. Just give up your rights and pay up, and we'll fix it.
That, of course, is the way to fix the problem. Second hour of the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. And a phone number to get involved in the action. Oh, and at this point, it is open phones. So 307-363-4093 is the phone number. That's 307-363-4093. If at any point you want to just call the show, change the subject, interrupt me if you have to, that's fine. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. For those people watching on the video stream, how you doing? That box over here, you know the usual thing. Click on the box, up come the message thing. You just type in whatever you want. I'll respond as the program goes on, so you guys can always chat with me that way while I'm yakking away on the air. So, yes, I brought up the global warming sponsorship thing there for a reason. Here we go.
If we had some global warming, it wouldn't be 20 below. It wouldn't be 20 below. If we had some global warming, I wouldn't be shoveling snow. I wouldn't be shoveling that blasted snow.
Oh, we've gotten plenty of it this winter. Dan from the front office correctly pointed out this ought to panic those people in the global warming crowd. This is the hottest day in Wyoming this year. Did you know that? At the beginning of the year, we were at temperatures in the negatives, and those temperatures just kept getting warmer. Oh, dear Lord. So where are we at right now? 41 degrees. Holy cow. So we've gone from like minus 10 as a daytime high to 41 degrees as a daytime high, making this the hottest day of the year yet. And if the trend continues, we're just absolutely screwed at this point. So, okay. During the past couple of weeks, you heard that NASA came out and said that 2014 was the hottest year on record. And my answer on air at the time was, wait for it. Hold on. Remember what I've always told you guys about news stories. I don't care if it's something you want to hear and want to be true or not. The first thing you usually hear about any news story is usually wrong. Folks, I've been doing this for, oh my God, 31 years now. And the first few times, I did what a lot of people would do. I would hear a story, I'd get excited about it, I'd get on the air, I'd talk about it. Next day, I'm on the air wiping egg off my face. Well, apparently some more information came in. Major news networks have never really learned that lesson. They're still trying to be the first to break the news. You don't want to be the first to break the news. You want to be the one who got the story right. It's more important to be the news organization that gets the story right than the news organization that breaks the story first. So when NASA came out and said 2014 was the hottest on record, wait for it, Now hold that thought for a minute. Let's for a moment say that that was the case. That still doesn't answer the 18-year pause. Look, here's how you run a graph for those people who don't really do that kind of thing for a living, and neither do I. I look at a lot of graphs, but I don't really make graphs for a living. During the course of 18 years, they are just putting dots. Okay, this was a hot day. This was a cooler day. This was a hot year. This was a cooler year. Up and down, up and down. And then you take a look at the trend over the past 18 years and 3 months now. And has the temperature been slowly curving between the hot years and the cool years? Has the trend been slowly curving up or down or even? And the answer is, for the past 18 years, 3 months, even. Even if 2014 was the hottest on record, that wouldn't change the graph. You're going to have to get several years out to see if we suddenly got out of the flat line and started moving up or down. We don't know yet. But we do know this. Now, this came out over the weekend, NASA scientists admit there are only 38% chance that 2014 was the hottest year on record. Now, how would there be only a 38% chance? Okay. Oh, by the way, if you listen to the irrelevant press on this one, well, this settles it. Hottest year on record. It's over. The debate, once again, they declared the debate over. They were so quick to rush out on this story. Okay. Well, let's take a look at this. And there's several stories on it. I have a story in front of me. I'm actually going to back up. Here's what I suggest you do. The best one I thought out of the several stories that I have on this. Go to my reading assignment page. You go to boldrepublic.com, reading assignments, and you'll see it on the right-hand side. Okay. Reading from the story. The NASA climate scientists, that's got an S at the end, scientists, who claimed 2014 set a new record for global warmth, admitted they were only 30% sure that it was true. The claim made headlines around the world, but yesterday, this was over the weekend, it emerged that the satellite analysis, based on readings of more than 3,000 measured weather stations worldwide as well, is subject to a margin of error. That's where you get the 38%. NASA admits this means it is far from certain that 2014 set a record at all. In other words, they're still analyzing the data. Yet the NASA press release failed to mention this when they first came out with the original numbers. Okay, the NASA press release failed to mention this, as well as the fact that the alleged record amounted to an increase over the year 2010, the previous warmest year, of just 0.02 of a degree. The margin of error said by scientists approximately 0.1 Celsius several times. It gets into the numbers. What's worse, as you read through the experts' detailed explanation, is that even if they are correct that it was the warmest year on record, it's only slightly so. It was not extraordinarily warm. It was only slightly warmer than 2010. Okay. So, in some of the news stories that I was looking at over the weekend, where they talked about 2014 was the warmest on record. Again, they got the initial press release from NASA, and they freak out over it, not waiting for what the rest of the scientists were not done talking yet. That's basically what it is. The scientists came out and said, well, it looks like 2014 was the warmest on record. Although we're only 38% sure of that, we're not, because we're still analyzing data and there's margins of error. They didn't wait for the rest of the story. They rushed to the cameras. They rushed to the microphones to get that out. If they had waited for the rest of the story, they would have said, maybe. We're not sure yet. We're still looking for the information. Now, in some of the stories, these news reporters even threw out things like, downtown Miami is sinking because sea levels are rising at such a record pace that when it's high tide in downtown Miami, it's flooding out. Okay. Remember, Florida boy here, right? Okay. I know Miami. I grew up on the other coast, but I know Miami. The downtown area is on the main lane. Got it? Okay. And it's right up against the bay. With me so far? Good. A lot of big buildings there. You know what's underneath the downtown? I mean, go underground. Limestone. And so they've built all these big, heavy buildings on limestone. And much like Nolans, it's sinking. Now, how do I know that that's true for that area? Well, there's beachfront property up and down all over the place, and that's not flooding out, just the downtown area for a period in an area around a couple of blocks. Now, right across the bay is an island. So when you're in downtown Miami, you can look out across the bay and you see an island, and you can get in your car and drive across one of several bridges. There's one bridge right next to downtown. And when you get on there, you are in South Beach. And you can pull right up to, do you ever see the movie The Birdcage? That was South Beach, Miami. Now, when you're on South Beach, first off, could you ladies just, if you ladies will just find something to do for just a moment. Hey, guys. South Beach is topless. Okay, so anyway, hey, ladies, welcome back. So you just pull your car right up to all of these wonderful buildings right there, Art Deco all over the place, and you can get out of your car, and the sand is right there. I mean, the beach is right up against downtown South Beach. And when it's high tide on South Beach, it's not flooding over. I went back to Florida for Christmas vacation. Tim from Tampa and I went out to the edge of Tampa Bay, to Fort DeSoto, and walked the beach. High tide comes in there. Fort DeSoto doesn't flood out. So what's all this talk about rising sea levels? By the way, the North and South Pole have record ice, as does Greenland. Okay, now, Lee has chimed in on a video stream. He said, I didn't realize hard, he puts that in quotes, science, like climate science, had a margin of error. NASA allows for a margin of error. I'm not sure. Okay, to explain that to you, Lee. What they mean by margin of error is when you're doing statistics like that, data, when you're taking temperatures and so on, there's always a margin of error. In other words, mistakes are made. You're never 100% positive. Equipment can be off. Yeah, there's problems for multiple reasons, so you always have to include a margin of error in, when you're taking readings like that. It's never climate science is never an exact science in that case, especially because, I mean, just take a look at there's other reasons, but just our equipment alone can make for a margin of error. Lee also writes, add to that, other years also have margins of errors. Exactly. Now, there's the problem, because Lee mentions the computer models. Now, there's the next problem. I have in front of me here the weather forecast for my area, and it shows that we are in the low to upper 30s all week long. And how many times have I brought this up to you folks? Take a look at the weather forecast for, let's say, your basic 5-day forecast. Take a look at the 5th day out. And watch how much the forecast change when you get from where we are now to the 5th day. It always changes. The odds of that forecast staying exactly the same. And it's even worse when they do their 10-day forecast. They do the best they can, and they're always within the ballpark, but it's never exactly what they say. And why? Because we still are a long way from understanding all of the variables. From the way the oceans work, to the way the sun works, to the way cosmic rays work, to the way the winds work around the world, and the list goes on and on and on and on. There's so many variables when it comes to climate. This is not an exact science. It can't be yet. We don't know enough to make an exact science out of it. So those who say, remember the predictions I gave you back in the 1970s, Paul Ehrlich predicted that by the year 2000, the island nation of England would no longer exist. There'd be really nothing much left there. It'd be almost all underwater. Well, it's 2014. Okay. I've read for you prediction after prediction after prediction like that. They got wrong, because we don't know all the variables yet. Okay. So let me back up and wrap it up with this. This is real simple. NASA, and this I actually don't put this on NASA. Just so you want to know, Lee, I don't put this on NASA. I put this one on the media. NASA was putting out a press release, and the media took a look at the first few lines, 2014, the hottest on records, and they ran with it. And they didn't wait for NASA to finish their sentence. They're still analyzing the data. They're not sure yet. Now, let's say NASA comes out with their final report on this, and the final report shows that, in fact, 2014 was nothing special. Let's say that's the case. How many news organizations out there do you think are going to cover that as major headlines the same way they covered that it was the warmest year on record? How many will make the correction their #1 headline? And I think you and I already know the answer to that, which is why so many people have a skewed view of news in general. So, okay, I talked to you last hour about walking. Now that things are melting out there, because this is the hottest day of the year right now. It is, yeah. So it's getting really muddy. And so you just go tracking all of that stuff right into your place of business or your house. Either way, that can be either cleaned or replaced, and it's cheaper than you think it might be. Northeast Wyoming, you can call for a free estimate. Carpet Express Direct, they're located in Gillette, Wyoming. And here's the best way to do this. You can call him if you want. If you want to replace the floor or get it cleaned, I would suggest you put on your muddiest boots. You just walk right into Chris's shop. They're in downtown, where they're in Gillette, Wyoming, right on Highway 59 in Gillette, Wyoming. Just walk right into Carpet Express Direct with your biggest, baddest, muddiest boots and turn to Chris and say, see what I just did there? Yeah, my house kind of looks like that. He'll understand. Then tell him I sent you. I just want to see the expression on his face. Are you looking for employment in the energy industry? True Companies are hiring. The True Companies consists of several companies in the oil, gas, transportation, and agricultural business. Black Hills Trucking is currently hiring mechanics in Gillette and Casper, Wyoming. Belfouche Pipeline Company is currently hiring gaugers in Gillette, Wyoming, and North Dakota areas, roustabouts in Wyoming, and pipeline controllers in Casper, Wyoming. These are full-time positions with competitive salary, 100% funded profit-sharing plan, vacation, life insurance, family health, tuition, reimbursement, 401k, employer match, safety awards, and incentives. Must be able to pass an employment drug screening. You can view all current positions at truecosts.com. That's TRUECOS.com. True Companies are an affirmative action, equal opportunity employer.
I suppose you're planning a nice retirement, and you assume everything's paid for. But Wyoming didn't tell you. Who is paying for your pension?
I'm gonna owe lots of money. And it's all your fault. I want to pay for this, but you're making me.
Find out more at Wyoming2100.com.
Hey, Frank, you're actually gonna fall for that hook, are you?
I'm just so hungry, and the lure looks so good.
Yeah, well, just look up through the ice hole at that guy. Yeah, he's got all the latest gear, doesn't he? He's so warm and comfortable, and the top window sportsman clothing, and fishing pole, and the best lures, nice comfortable chairs, coolers, warmers. He's got it all.
I can't stand it.
I'm gonna bite the hook. Are you seriously gonna fall for that?
No, it's just that it has to be
Warmer up there above the ice and down here in the water. Yeah, and that frying pan he's got on the fire's a lot more.
Rocky Mountain Discount Sports has everything that the ice fisherman needs for the winter. Lines and lures, rods and reels. Special outfits to keep you warm, tents to keep the wind away, and the right kind of lures for winter fishing. Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, 4706 South Douglas Highway in Gillette, Wyoming. Open Monday through Saturday, 8 till 9, Sunday 9 to 6. Vic.
Yeah, it seems the Higgs transponder flagellated your subwell drive and capacitated your moron circuit.
Does your mechanic speak another language?
So I figured we reversed the polarity on the latch trigger and transposed the Weller circuit, and that should do it.
Some mechanics take advantage of the fact that you can't speak or understand them.
Yep, this is going to do it, but it's going to be expensive.
But at Ideal Auto, we speak your language.
This broke. Me fix. Affordable.
Now, anybody can understand that. Get your car repaired with the people who speak your language. Ideal Auto, 2901 Dogwood Avenue, Gillette, Wyoming, 307-686-2259.
Sorting through the nonsensical nonsense that makes your life a living hell. It's Glenn Woods. OldRepublic.com.
307-363-4093 is the phone number. That's 307-363-4093. You can change the topic if you want to at this point. I got to throw in one more story about the climate change thing, then we got a lot of other stuff to talk about. So, about that sea level change. I told you about what was happening in Miami, and no, Miami's not going through some flooding in downtown because of sea level rising. It's because that particular little area of Florida has a big, heavy city, skyscrapers and so on, built on limestone. The rest of Miami is fine. The rest of Florida is fine. Well, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change just released a November report. Over the period of 1901 to 2010, global mean sea rose by, and they give the numbers, the rate of sea level rise since the mid-19th century has been larger than the mean rate during previous 2 millennia. They write, it is very likely that the mean rate of global average sea level rise was, and they give all the numbers for that. You'll never remember the numbers. Why bother? The tide gauge and satellite data are consistent regarding higher rates during that period. And they talk about glaciers melting and so on around the country. Okay. A new study published in Nature this week using the models incorporating fancy new statistical techniques finds that the IPCC was overestimating the rate of sea level rise during the 20th century. The new study provoked some interesting headlines. For example, Washington Post says the rate of sea level rise is far worse than previously thought. The Independent warns the tides are changing, sea levels are rising faster than predicted. The new study finds that between 1901 and 1990, sea levels rose, well, again, without going through all the numbers here because it gets confusing, a lot less than the IPCC had originally predicted. So if the new study turns out to be correct, if the rate of sea level rise in the last 2 decades did indeed accelerate more than the IPCC reported, speed up, well, then we will go with that data. Okay, but we have to, here again, don't believe something because it's what you want to believe. You know, when I talk about something like this, there are those out there who are true believers, religiously so, which is why I say these people are involved in a religion, not science. And they see, well, the IPCC says that the sea levels are rising faster than ever before, and so that's true. And when you come out with another study that says, actually, that's not the case, it's immediately dismissed. There's another problem, though. For those of you out there who don't believe that the sea levels are rising at all, you immediately clutch to that study, and you don't look at other studies. Okay, here's what you do. The first thing that I said at the beginning of this hour, you sit back, you look at the data from both, and you sit back and you wait and you watch to see what is actually happening. They made their predictions, then they did their studies and measurements. Don't rush to believe over time what turns out to be true. That's what we go with. Now that's science.
most important thing to understand about the modern world, actually, is that once people were very poor and now they're very rich. In 1800, the average person in the world made $3 a day. I mean, the modern equivalent of $3 a day. So the goods and services, the stuff you could buy in the amount of $3 a day. So 3/4 of a cappuccino per day, nothing else. In the last 30 years, the percentage of people who are that badly off in the world has fallen by half. It's been halved. So things are going very well. And for we in places like the United States, where they've gone exceptionally well since 1800, we're making, now hear this, $130 a day. And what a transformation. It's just incredible. Now, we had earned the $3 a day forever. So there was in history, if you want a short economic history, since the beginning of time, it was $3 a day going along like this. And then right here, which is 1800, it goes up like mad. And there's this fantastic transformation of the condition of ordinary folks. Why did it happen? One old explanation is exploitation. You hear this a lot. We are rich because there are a bunch of poor people elsewhere in the world who are poor. That's not true. There's always been exploitation in history, and it didn't cause economic growth. So it can't be modern exploitation. Nor can it be, to think of a more conservative way of looking at it, investment. It's not investment. It's not piling bricks on bricks or BAs on BAs. It's new ideas. It's innovation. The fantastic number of changes in machinery and materials and organizational ideas, such as the modern university or reinforced concrete. It's just amazing. That caused this hockey stick, the blade of the hockey stick. Why did this happen? Two changes in Holland and England in the 1600s and 1700s, which was a rise of economic liberty and social honor for inventors, merchants, manufacturers. Before these were dishonored occupations, then they became honored. And out of that came a tremendous burst of innovation that had been earlier discouraged because they weren't free and they weren't honored.
Hello, America. Have you had enough of the NSA spying on you? Would you like to get a little revenge? Well, how would you like to join us? As the ASN, the American Stalkers Network, is looking for creepy people to out-creep the creeps at the NSA. And if you're one, or you just want to out-creep the federal government, we would like to talk to you. Do you like stalking and hacking on computers? Do you like the idea of staring into a 20th floor city apartment window with a drone camera? Does digging into a complete stranger's personal information excite you? What if that stranger worked for the NSA? Now you're talking. Would you like to take that personal information and turn it over the blogosphere? Or maybe the IRS? If so, give us a call today. But use a payphone in another state. Oh, and if you've been convicted of unwanted groping, we're going after the TSA next.
Everything Glenn talks about is on his website. And that website is updated daily to keep you informed and scared. BoldRepublic.com. Back to Glenn Woods.
It's a Monday edition of the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So, okay, sometimes people here at the offices hand me stuff just because they know my head's going to explode, and they kind of enjoy it. Then they get mad at me when I do the same to them. I'll never understand that. But I want to make sure to do this before I get into the next topic. Don't worry, Christine. I'll mention it more than once during this half hour of the program. And then, well, the rest of the week and rest of the month as well. So for those listening on local radio stations over in Belfouche, areas like that, listen carefully. So the greatest show on snow returns to Deadwood, January 30th through the 31st. ISOC, AMSOIL Championships Snowcross Series hits the Black Hills for the 3rd annual Deadwood Snowcross Shootout. More than 150 of the top professionals at snowcross racers will descend on historic downtown Days of 76 rodeo grounds for a weekend of high-flying, high-speed, high-octane snowmobile racing. You can register to win. Now, the package includes VIP package for 4. It's a VIP package for 4. Tickets to meet and greet Thursday, January 29th. VIP seating Friday and Saturday, January 31st and 30th and 31st. 2 rooms at Palaces Express in Deadwood. That's nice right there. And a $25 gift certificate from Cheyenne Crossing. Drawing is Monday, January 26th. Must be 21 to enter. For those listening to me in Campbell County and Gillette, Wyoming, you can go to register with Carl if you're, east of here. But for those that are in Gillette, Campbell County, Wyoming, stop by our studios. It's American Standard Media. We share the offices with the Campbell County Observer, and we have a box right here for you to fill out a form and register. Must be 21 to enter. Okay, so we're on Highway 59. You know where Subway is on Highway 59, right across from where they're building the old folks' home? Yeah, we're down on the other half of that plaza down below. Just look for the sign for the Campbell County Observer. Come in, say hi to Dan, and sign up, and I'll keep talking about that during the, all the way up until the time that they draw this. Okay, if you ever hear me with paper, that means somebody handed me paper. I like to stay away from it just because we got all this computer stuff. Why would I do paper? Headline from a local newspaper: more have signed up for health insurance in Wyoming, showing awareness is up. But here's something that happened locally now where I live, and you're going to love the way the local press paints this. From 3 to 6 p.m. Tuesday at the public library here in town, they hope to encounter a whole bunch of people that wanted to sign up for Obamacare and so on, the healthcare exchange. The place was absolutely dead. And they have a team of, Jennings and Ratterman, I think is how you pronounce it. A team of 8 navigators with Enroll Wyoming. It's a nonprofit, grant-funded organization that works under the Wyoming Institute for Population Health through grassroots movements to help Wyoming citizens enroll and gain a better understanding of coverage options through insurance plans and so on. Again, the place was dead. Now, how does the local media see this? If it's just dead and nobody really shows up to sign up. Well, apparently this area is not very health insurance literate. I mean, they even write things in the article: your wellness visit to your doctor is free, your immunizations are free under this. It's not free. Remember what I told you? I really want you guys, first off, if you didn't show up for this, it's not because you didn't know about it, right? You're just a dummy. If you didn't show up for this, it's just because, well, you knew about it, but you're just healthcare illiterate. They don't take into account that maybe you knew about it, but you know enough about these exchanges that you're not going to get involved. You're smart enough not to get involved. You're smart enough just to not get involved. You also are smart enough to know that when it says, hey, look what's free, because you got this doctor visit and you got your wellness doctor visit, that's free. Immunizations are free. No, it's not free. Remember what I told you. Anyone who turns to you and says it's free, if you ever experience that, someone turns to you and says it's free, and it's something offered by the government. Here's what I want you to do. Just turn to them and say, did you say that was free? I just want to make sure. Okay. Do me a favor. Just hold on a moment. And I want you to dial this phone number here for this radio show. Doesn't matter if I'm on the air or not. I'm probably here working. And when I answer, I want you to say, I got this guy in front of me that says that healthcare can be free. In fact, I got this guy here that says through the Obamacare thing, wellness visits to your doctor and immunizations are free. And then just hand the phone. I'll handle it. I want the privilege of calling the guy an idiot. And then he'll hand the phone back to you. And you can go ahead and call him an idiot if you want. I just need to do that. If you understand, would you do that for me? Free. What are your taxes right now? How much is being deducted? And how much do they want to raise your taxes by? What's the national debt right now? But it's free. This is all for free. Sure it is. They don't deduct anything. April 15th, tax time's coming away, but don't worry about it. Everything's free. You know, when your kids go to school, when your kids go to public school, that's free. No, it is really. The teachers work for free. The building was built for free. The building's maintained for free. Everything is free. No, it's not like they're taxing you for it, is it? Okay. Christine sent a real quick message here that there's a $25 gift certificate in this as well. Let me go through it real quick here. It's the greatest show on snow returning to Deadwood January 30th and 31st as the ISOC AmSoil Championship Snowcross Series comes to the Black Hills. So would you like to register to win for this sucker? Fine. Tickets to the meet and greet are in the package, which is Thursday, January 29th. VIP seating Friday and Saturday, January 30th through the 31st. Pit passes Friday and Saturday, January 30th through the 31st. 2 rooms at a place at Palace Express in Deadwood. 4 $25 gift certificates from Cheyenne Crossing. Christine here saying it's a $25 gift certificate. It's 4 $25 gift certificates. She's making sure I say the 4. Okay, got the 4 in there. And you can register at many different locations, but one of them is if you are in the Gillette-Campbell County area. Come on by, pay us a visit, say hi. We're located on Highway 59, right behind the subway and across from where they're building the new old folks home. Come on down and see us, register, say hi to Dan, tell him I sent you. ScoldRepublic.com.
You could stay at home and watch the big game all alone. Or you can go to Lakeside Liquor and watch the big game on the big screen with all your friends. $2 off pizza during the game. Buckets of beer. 6 for $10 during the game. And 16-ounce Bud Light 5 for $15. Big games were meant to be watched in a big way. So if you're near Gillette, Wyoming, get out of the house and get to Lakeside Liquor. Lakeside, where your shift change is our happy hour.
You could either spend $100 getting your phone fixed, or you could go ahead and spend $400 to replace it. At Selectel Wireless and Gillette, we fix phones. Most generally, what breaks is the digitizer or the LCD. This is from being dropped, being smashed, thrown against the wall. No, seriously, 9 times out of 10, people throw their phones. Well, we can fix that too. Save money, fix it, don't replace it. Come see us at Selectel Wireless, next to Office Depot in Gillette, Wyoming. But if you do need a new phone, we have those too.
Excuse me, sir. Where's your questionably old meat on sale?
We don't have that here.
Really? Okay, well, where do you find your gluten-free dented cans out-of-date soup?
We've never carried anything like that.
Wilted veggies?
No.
Nearly molding bread?
Never.
What sort of grocery store is this?
The sort of grocery store for people who don't like questionably old on-sale meat, gluten-free dented cans of out-of-date soup, wilted veggies and nearly molding bread.
This week at Don's Supermarket, top sirloin steaks, $5.79 a pound. Del Monte vegetables, 5 cans for $5. Red or green seedless grapes, $2.99 a pound. General Mills cereal, 3 boxes for $6. Locally owned and operated. Don's Supermarket, 1501 West 2nd Street, Gillette.
Obnoxiously slow cashiers?
Nope. So what's the matter, Senator? Flushing all that taxpayer money down the toilet, clogging up the drain again?
And how? And nothing works when the money don't flow.
And I bet flushing all that Chinese money really clogs the pipes.
Oh, with interest. Yeah, Chinese money's the worst.
Well, Senator, to keep that money flowing, why not try this new pipe cleaner? It's called Debt Bomb.
Debt Bomb?
Yes, Debt Bomb, Senator. With all the pressure building up in the pipes from all that money you're flushing down the toilet, well, there's just simply no flow. You need something to clear the clog. But don't worry, the pressure will eventually build up that you can just shove Debt Bomb into the toilet and everything blows sky high.
Oh, look at it go.
Why, there's nothing left. No, Senator, there's nothing. No economy, no country, nothing.
But you say that like it's a bad thing.
Endorsed by governments worldwide. It's inevitable. Debt Bomb.
TV on.
Buckets of beer.
Poured.
Pizza.
Hot and ready to go.
Various other munchies.
Ready.
Friends.
Stoked and ready.
This football season, there's no need to miss a game if you're near Gillette. Join your friends at Pat's Liquor, where there's always drink specials and free food during the game. Pat's Liquor, Highway 59 in Gillette. Pat's Liquor, where you don't have to be Irish to get lucky, but it doesn't hurt. Don't forget, we get the Super Bowl Sunday, big Super Bowl party at Pat's Liquor. All I know is 2 teams are playing, and one of them's going to win. And they're having a party.
Do yourself a favor. Don't just listen to the show. See what Glenn's talking about at boldrepublic.com. There you can watch the show live on YouTube or download the show and listen to it later. Now let's get back in there. Here's Glenn Woods.
So we're getting closer. As long as I was talking about free stuff and all this affordable free stuff Obamacare was supposed to offer. Okay, so one of the stories that I came across, you'll find it on my Daily Outrage page at boldrepublic.com, and I believe I might have it also on my reading assignment page. Come tax time, it's gotten so bad that most people are going to have no idea how to fill it. You're supposed to fill out a form, several forms, to prove that you have the proper government-approved health care. This is what's supposed to happen. And it's gotten so bad that, in fact, even some of these insurance providers out there, as well as, not just insurance providers, H&R Block is now running commercials saying, look, you're having a hard time understanding this, just come see us. Even H&R Block is having a hard time understanding this thing. That's how much of a mess this is. And they also really don't have the people in line to enforce this anyway. They're threatening you. IRS is waving their fingers and threatening, but it's such a mess over there. And on top of that, their budget's being cut. I don't know how they plan to enforce this thing. It really doesn't make it. And of course, it makes complete sense that in order to fill out the extra pages to show that you have the proper health insurance, nobody understands really how this is supposed to work. The IRS, who came up with these pages, are confused about it. H&R Block is confused about it, and you're supposed to go to them for help. So, okay, if you read the page, don't feel stupid. If you read these pages come tax time and you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, whether you're paying the penalty or whether you have proper insurance, whatever the case is, and you're completely confused by it, don't fret. Don't worry about it. So is everybody else. You're not the stupid one here. The stupid ones, well, those are the people who invented all this nonsense you're supposed to wade through. Those are the stupid people here. You're the ones stuck trying to wade through their mess. All right, well, hold on, because in just a moment I'm going to tell you about a woman who had to resign. And she was part of the Obama administration. She still hasn't admitted wrongdoing, but wait till you hear what she resigned.
everybody. Welcome to News Busted. I'm Jody Miller. Let's get started. President Obama declared that the war in Afghanistan is over. Oh well, winning isn't everything. President Obama is still under fire for reaching out to Cuba's Raul Castro. Critics call the controversial leader a totalitarian Marxist dictator, and they say the same thing about Castro. The Supreme Court will hear Obamacare arguments on March 4th, unless, of course, President Obama issues an executive order to eliminate the Supreme Court. CNN had its lowest ratings ever last year. To give you an idea of how bad it is, the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer is now the Isolation Booth with Wolf Blitzer. According to the CDC, America has hit the flu epidemic threshold nationwide. This flu season is so bad, Hometown Buffet is hiring extra workers just to clean the sneeze guards. The small town of Granite Bay, California, has been overrun by skunks. As a result, the town has a new nickname, Congress. President Obama asked the FCC to put the internet under the same restrictions as phone service. That way, the only thing he'll need to regulate the internet is his pen. And finally, according to the Globe, Cher's friends are concerned that she needs a heart transplant. And at age 68, Cher's heart is one of her last remaining original parts. Thanks for watching News Busted, everybody. I'm Jody Miller. Make sure to tell your friends about us, and we'll catch you next time.
Everything Glenn talks about is on his website, and that website is updated daily to keep you informed and scared. BoldRepublic.com. Back to Glenn Woods.
It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget, pretty much everything I talk about and a whole lot more, my website is boldrepublic.com. Boldrepublic.com. And if you ever miss any of the show, all of the show, part of the show archives are right there. And so you can download it to any device you have, phone, tablet, tower, whatever it is. Just click download and show boop down into your phone and just listen to it anytime you want. For those on the video stream, well, same thing. It's all there for you. So, okay. Get to it. Just sent me a note on the video stream. Back during the breaks, the hockey stick was mentioned. Well, I'm sorry. Back during one of the breaks, the hockey stick was mentioned. It's bogey because the timeline is skewed. CO2 builds up after the increase in temps. It's lag. Oh, I do know about that. Get to it. Okay. If you want to see an interesting documentary, look up online because it's been posted on YouTube. It was a documentary called The Great Climate Swindle, I believe, or Climate Change Swindle. But in it, they talk about scientists who have been part of the IPCC and part of NOAA and NASA, and they're from countries all over the world. So they talk to major players in the climate science community. And here's something interesting that they found. During Al Gore's inconvenient lie, he shows his famous hockey stick graph. And that shows they took the medieval warming period and made it look smaller. You know, in other words, through thousands of years, Earth's temperature, it shows on Al Gore's chart, bobs up and down a little bit. But then all of a sudden, humans become industrialized and everything skyrockets up. And this turned out not to be the case. And it turns out that entire chart is completely rigged. The medieval warming period was a very warm time on planet Earth. Then we went down into a mini ice age. And that was before man was ever industrialized. But as you take a look at years that are hot, years that are cold years, years that are mild, decades even that are like that. What Al Gore was trying to say is when the CO2 level went up, the temperature followed. But they show in this documentary, again, they're talking to major players. These are not small fry scientists. These are major players, and you get to hear what they have to say in their own words. And when they look closer at the ice core samples, they found out something quite different, and also tree rings and all sorts of other things going back. That, in fact, what happens is the temperature rises and the CO2 rises after. It lags behind. CO2 is not the main driver of climate. CO2 is following the temperature change. It's not causing the temperature change. Now, again, for those people who'd like to argue with me about it, don't argue with me. I'm quoting what these scientists said. And some of them were major players with the UN, IPCC, and NOAA, and NASA, and Canadian climate researchers, and European climate researchers, and from East Anglia, and on it goes. So they have a whole list of major players out there. And this is one of the things they found, that climate, the temperature, is not following the CO2 level, but the CO2 level is following the temperature change. Now, if they are correct about that, you can take everything that you've heard in climate science about man pumping CO2 into the air and it causing temperature change and just throw it out. If that, in fact, is the case, if these guys are right. All right. Let me, real quick, because I said I was going to mention this, and we'll get the third hour of the program, we have a lot to cover. Someone from the Obama administration has resigned. And where is this in the major news? Embattled Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. You probably didn't hear about her. Marilyn Tavenner, is how you pronounce her name? Resigned her post overseeing Obamacare just months after she admitted that the Obama White House highly publicized over 8 million Obamacare enrollment figures. Well, they fudged the numbers by over 1 million. And look, guys like me were on the air telling you about this all along. Quote, she says, the mistake we made was unacceptable. Okay, you can call it a mistake. I call it a lie. Well, no, they were trying all they could to make it sound bigger than it was. A lie. It wasn't a mistake. She says, I will be communicating that clearly throughout the department. She sent the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee a letter blaming the Obama administration for unfinished back-end systems and inflated figures and so on. So she cast the blame somewhere else. I don't care anymore. No, I really don't care who blames who anymore. The numbers were a lie. Once the automated system for effectuated enrollment is functional, she says the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services will be able to more easily report the number of who has paid their premiums. So it's not just a matter, and this is what we talked about when all of this was beginning. It's not just a matter of if somebody actually signed up for Obamacare or not. Forget that. It's bigger than that. Who's been able to pay? Some people signed up and never paid. Some people made their first payment or two but couldn't afford it and dropped out. So how big is your enrollment number now? What gets me, and this is where as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the worst parts of Obamacare. There are people who can't afford to pay the premiums on this inflated insurance. They can't afford it. And they can't afford to pay the fine either. But this was supposed to help everybody, right? All right, third hour of the program just ahead. Hang in there. There's a lot to cover in just 1 hour to do it.
Karl Marx famously thought that a capitalist economy promotes the systematic exploitation of workers. For Marx, this idea was based on a labor theory of value. which most scholars today reject. Nevertheless, many still agree with Marx's basic claim that capitalism is inherently exploitative. They simply define exploitation in broader and less contentious terms. Instead of thinking about exploitation as involving the forced extraction of surplus value from labor, contemporary philosophers define it as taking unfair advantage of others' vulnerability. And defined in this way, many philosophers think that contemporary capitalism is rife with exploitation, with economically powerful capitalists taking unfair advantage of workers' vulnerability in order to maximize their profit. So, what should we make of this argument? Is capitalism exploitative? And what's the alternative? Well, first, it's absolutely correct that many capitalists want to exploit workers. They want to pay as low a wage as possible and get as much work out of workers as possible in order to maximize profit. But the fact that other capitalists also want to exploit workers in this way makes it difficult for any of them to do so. This is because competitive pressure forces capitalists to pay workers close to the value of what those workers produce, whether they want to or not. If you try to pay someone less than they're worth, someone else will offer them more because they can profit by doing so. Imagine you're in an auction, bidding against others for $1. Of course, you'd like to pay as little as possible for that $1. But if someone else was bidding 60 cents for it, wouldn't it be worth your while to bid 62? And wouldn't someone else then bid 64 and so on? In a competitive marketplace, that same process leads capitalists to pay workers close to the value of what they produce, not because they want to, but because they have to. The second point to keep in mind about capitalism and exploitation is this. Even when exploitative or unfair exchanges do take place, the institutions of a free market ensure that they will at least usually be mutually beneficial, because the exchanges are voluntary. As an example, think about an exchange that a lot of people find unfair: payday loans. A poor working man needs money right now to meet his basic needs, and so gets a loan from a payday loan store, but only by paying fees equivalent to a 400% annual percentage rate. Let's grant, at least for the sake of argument, that charging such a high interest rate is unfair. Even so, it's important to bear in mind that both parties had the opportunity to say no to the exchange if they believed that they could do better somewhere else. And because of this fact, because the exchange was voluntary in just this very weak sense, this means that both parties expect to gain more from the exchange than they give up. It means that unless one of them has made a mistake, the exchange will be mutually beneficial. This is an important fact. Important for the well-being of individual laborers, and important for the growth and development of society as a whole. Mutually beneficial exchanges are how wealth is created in society. And the more wealth a society creates over time, the less vulnerability there is for capitalists to exploit. Markets aren't perfect. But whether or not you think capitalism is exploitative, you need to ask, what's the alternative? The usual suggestion is political regulation and control. But if our concern is to minimize exploitation, we need to ask whether this alternative really makes sense. After all, citizens are in a position of tremendous vulnerability relative to the state, and lobbyists, bureaucrats, and elected officials will often be tempted to exploit that vulnerability for their own private gain. Think of the way in which our political institutions subsidize large agribusinesses, bail out auto companies, cartelize the banking industry through the Federal Reserve System, and so on. All of these policies benefit the interests of the economically powerful and politically well-connected at the expense of ordinary citizens. That's not a free market at work. That's big government. And politics is unlike markets in that political exchanges aren't voluntary. When the government wants to use your money to bail out GM, you don't have the right to say no. And this means there's no guarantee that the exchange will be mutually beneficial. When politics is involved, one party's gain usually comes at someone else's expense. Politicians gain from the contributions they receive from big business, and big business gains from the favors they receive from government. Sure, those favors have a cost, but because government has the power of coercion, it can force third parties to pay that cost. Those who can afford political influence get the benefits, and those who cannot afford it suffer the consequences. This is how politics works. And it's not because we have bad people in office and need to get nicer people in. It's because of the structural nature of politics. Because the state has the power to impose its decisions by force on the public. Just hoping that the state will use its power on behalf of the vulnerable isn't enough.
Who exactly is Gruber? What was his role in crafting Obamacare?
I don't know who he is. He didn't help write our bill.
Most people think he's one of the best outside experts, Mr. Gruber of MIT.
I don't know if you have seen Jonathan Gruber of MIT's analysis. And so...
Jonathan Gruber is one of the most respected economists in the world.
He attended 5 of the 12 meetings at the Obama White House in 2009, including the meeting with the president.
I was a paid consultant to the Obama administration to help develop the technical details of the bill.
$6 million in consulting fees on Obamacare. Who knew you could make so much money working for the government, huh?
And so...
The fact that some advisor,
advisor
who never worked on our staff.
I've stolen ideas from liberally John Gruber.
Obama's a little more relaxed. I think he took a cigarette break halfway through.
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
All right, this next one is a very delicate topic. I can handle delicate topics. I'm a radio professional, but it's going to make a couple of you people out there wince. I'm warning you now. Final hour of the program, Bold Republic Radio Show. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So, okay, what's so delicate? Oh, this is going to give some of you the heebie-jeebies out there, but okay. I just want to make sure that you were warned in advance, and I don't want you to blame me for anything, okay? Okay. No, don't worry. It's nothing that's going to get us in trouble with the FCC or anything like that. It's just one of those that's... Oh, by the way, if you need to be somewhere where you can scream bloody murder or just laugh that loud, it depends on who you are, what kind of reaction you're going to have. So have you ever heard... Pardon me, but you ever heard of a play called The Vagina Monologues? And if you're thinking, well, that sounds like radical feminism, yes. Okay. Well, a very liberal college campus has canceled their annual performance of it. Now, well, I mean, you would expect a conservative campus somewhere to cancel a performance like this, especially if it's annual. I mean, what conservatives out there are to blame for shutting this down? No, liberals shut it down because some people might be offended. Now, if you're thinking, oh, good, a bunch of liberals took a look at that play and said, oh, okay, you know something, this is offending conservatives, so we're going to stop doing it. Nope, nope. You should be so lucky. Nothing like that at all. It's far, far worse than you can ever imagine. So let me go back to the headline here, and then I'll read you the story. College cancels The Vagina Monologues for ignoring women without vaginas. That's what it says. Women without? How are women without? Well, the women without would be who? Yeah, men who identify themselves as women. You might offend them. Therefore, you can't do this play anymore because some women don't have those. Therefore, do you understand why I say we're dealing with some kind of a mental disorder here? How convoluted does your thought process have to be? I recently just posted on my YouTube page for those people who worry about gender-neutral bathrooms and cross-gendered bathrooms. And we need to allow men or young boys who feel that they're not actually men or young boys and they identify with women, they should be able to go into the girls' room. And I did a very simple video. Here's how it works. I walked into a men's room. I felt kind of creepy doing it, a public restroom, and I stood in front of the urinal. The whole video is probably like 15 seconds long. And I said, it's real simple. And I'm pointing to the urinal when I say this. Does your plumbing fit this plumbing? Then you're in the right place. That's it. There. That settles the whole thing. Now, it's get back to this. You have to be someone who sits around thinking these convoluted thoughts. I like to simplify things. I really do. Not overly complicate to the point that I'm contradicting myself. All right. Here's the story. All women's Mount Holyoke College will no longer perform their... Oh, by the way, before I get into this, that college has been debating bringing men into the campus, but not like men. You know what I mean by not men? Yeah, men that identify themselves as women or transvestites. It was really simple. It was an all-women's college. I have no problem with that. It's a private college. They can do what they want. It's an all-women's college, but because they're very liberal, what about those men that identify themselves as women? Why, we're alienating them, and that's just not right. And what about transvestites? Because that's what they're going through there. They can't just say, you know, we have these body parts, therefore anyone who has body parts like us goes to this school. They can't just do that. No, they got to make it more complicated. All right, let me see if I can get through this. Oh, dear God. The all-women's Mount Holyoke College will no longer perform their annual production of Eve Ensler's narcissistic celebration of the female sexuality called the Vagina Monologues on Valentine's Day because it fails to give a voice to transgendered women who don't have those things. The play served as a feminist Bible for generations, asking the deepest questions involving womanhood, such as if your JJ got dressed, what would it wear? Now, this is supposed to be intellectual thought. These people think of themselves as intellectuals. So if your private parts were to get dressed, what would it wear? Oh, dear God. Now, I want to know something from this Mount Holyoke college here. For those young ladies that are going there and learning this, what life skills are you learning that's going to help you get a job and make it in the real world? You're getting a degree in what? Okay, so you learn what, if your private parts were to get dressed, it would wear what? What kind of clothing? That's going to help you get a job in what profession with whom? I'm sorry, I'm not going to understand it. I thought that's what college was for. Am I wrong? The monologue is a tour de force of sexual discovery, pedophilia, homosexuality, and other topics explored ad nauseum. I get nauseous just thinking about it. In play since the 1950s. That's how long it's been running, except without the subtitles. Instead, the play is more grotesque and all up in your face about it style of performance. It's meant to shock you, in other words. The thing is written in a way to shock and offend you. That's the point of it. Okay, so the Daily News reported that Erin Murphy, a spokesperson for the school's Project Theater, wrote a campus-wide email. Quote, at its core, the show offers an extremely narrow perspective on what it means to be a woman. The board also wrote in a Facebook post about the play, fails the transgendered community in a lot of ways. So it might be offensive to them, so we got to stop. Murphy elaborated, gender is a wide and varied experience. One cannot simply reduce to biological or anatomical distinctions. Pardon me, but that's exactly what I do. But okay, apparently you can't. And many of us who have participated in the show have grown increasingly uncomfortable presenting the material that is inherently reductionist and exclusive. Now, see, what we have here, once again, these are people who are trying to sound intellectual about it. And you and I are just not intellectual enough to understand what's being said here. So, no, I'm sorry. I can actually reduce this to very simple terms. I actually can. There's no need for a long discussion about this. In fact, you get confused and you confuse people when you get into these long in-your-face discussions about it. The issue is not that hard to understand. Refusing to remain, and I'm reading from the article, in the past, the students at South Hadley, Massachusetts Liberal Arts College, decided that it would no longer ignore the vaginalist women on campus, the transsexuals. Instead, they are debuting an original play called The Student Body, kind of like the monologues, but it will also explore topics such as transgender and on and on and on. Not every student who took kindly to the change in the Valentine's Day tradition, showing appearing on an online anonymous message board. One student said, "I love how people who have never been able to discuss or embrace their wawas," she writes. I like that. That's good. "Aren't going to find an avenue here either, since female validating talk about them is forbidden. That's so misogynistic under the guise of progress." Okay. These are people, young ladies, and apparently they're allowing transgender now. I think I remember covering that story about a year ago, who are going to this university. And I was under the impression that going to a university, you were there to learn skills that would help you get a job in the real world and actually contribute something not only to your own life, to build your own life, but actually contribute something to society. But instead, this is what they are discussing and this is what they're learning. Then they leave their jobs, get out into the real world, and are qualified for what? Which leads me to the next topic. So I'm going to stay in Massachusetts, where the school is. Remember last week I told you guys in Massachusetts there was a bunch of protesters. Turned out to be like something like 8 or 10 of them, some number like that. And they held up traffic on a major interstate. Remember that? Okay. And this was all for that Black Lives Matters thing. Interesting that none of the protesters were black, but okay. They got out there on the interstate and they blocked the whole thing. The way they do it is they insert their arms into tubes and then they handcuff themselves inside the tubes. That way it's very hard to get them undone from those tubes. Got it? All right. Then they stand out there in the highway, stretched across the highway. Unfortunately, some emergency vehicles needed to get by, but they couldn't do it, and it had to take the long way around, and so lives were in danger. So give credit to some television station in Massachusetts to go have a talk with these people who were all arrested and had their day in court, so they had their information, to find out, what do you think now that you found out that you actually put lives in danger because, well, you blocked highway and emergency vehicles were trying to get through? Not only did they find out that all of the protesters were white for Black Lives Matter, and they all looked like a bunch of dirty hippies. No, they did. I'm not trying to be cruel here. That's what they looked like. They looked like hippies, and they were all dirty. Dreadlocks, the whole 9 yards, filthy clothes. But when they showed up to where these people lived, you're not going to believe where they lived. They all seem to be living in nice, big homes. Now, not their own homes. Mommy and Daddy's homes. Yeah. All of these protesters who had also been part of things like Occupy Wall Street, same people. They're all living at home with Mommy and Daddy. And when asked about if they had jobs or anything like that, apparently none of them do. This is what they do with their time. They go out and protest things. And they're living off of Mommy and Daddy. Now, if you're wondering, do these people have degrees in anything? Oh, yes, absolutely they do. They went to universities that are much like the one that I spent the first 15 minutes of this hour talking about. They learned about this radical life and got degrees in it, and then went out into the real world with no skills to get a job. Instead, they are now professional protesters.
Glenn Woods. BoldRepublic.com.
Are you looking for employment in the energy industry? True Companies are hiring. The True Companies consists of several companies in the oil, gas, transportation, and agricultural business. Black Hills Trucking is currently hiring mechanics in Gillette and Casper, Wyoming. Belfouche Pipeline Company is currently hiring gaugers in Gillette, Wyoming, and North Dakota areas. Roustabouts in Wyoming and pipeline controllers in Casper, Wyoming. These are full-time positions with competitive salary, 100% funded profit-sharing plan, vacation, life insurance, family health, tuition, reimbursement, 401k, employer match, safety awards, and incentives. Must be able to pass an employment drug screening. You can view all current positions at truecosts.com. That's TRUECOS.com. True Companies are an affirmative action equal opportunity employer.
Wyoming citizens, I come to call your attention to a matter of utmost importance and urgency that will affect each of us. Governor Meade, in backroom meetings, has been working for years, as he describes, to implement a refugee resettlement program in Wyoming. Meade has contacted the U.S. government to formalize a public-private partnership. My point is, were you asked your opinion or support of this partnership? Meade didn't even discuss the issue with our legislature. This program introduces incompatible cultures within our own. Many refugees in other American communities don't accept any aspect of U.S. culture, values, or laws. Do you want Meade, like President Obama, taking hard-earned tax dollars designated for our citizens to pay for a refugee resettlement program? We cannot allow recent outbreaks of disease and threat of lone wolf terrorism to jeopardize the safety of our families. I am Wyoming proud and want to assure we all are, today and for our future generations. Will you please help me?
Paid for by Citizens Protecting Wyoming.
Hello, Americans. This is Rod with your local American-made store here in Gillette, Wyoming, where it's always made, right here in the USA. Have you seen our stainless steel art? It's beautiful. Yes, and he will do custom. Framed artwork. Check out our selection. Top-of-the-line stuffed olives, flavored olive oils. And yes, we have toys and Okabashi sandals. Free pocket constitution with purchase. We are the solution for this great nation. Get informed. Don't forget your veterans. God bless America, and buy American. It matters. MyMadeInAmericaStore.com.
I suppose you're planning a nice retirement, and you assume everything is paid for. But Wyoming didn't tell you. Who is paying for your pension?
I'm gonna owe lots of money, and it's all your fault. I want to pay for this, but you're making me.
Find out more at Wyoming2100.com.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Hear that? That's the sound of a founding father rolling in his grave. Spinning so fast he can actually turn one of our massive state-of-the-art turbine generators. That's a lot of energy. Free energy if we could only tap into it. Here at Founding Fathers Electric, we've found how to do just that. Each time a liberal speaks, a founding father spins in his grave.
What difference at this point does it make?
About 1.21 gigawatts of difference, Hillary. Spinning a turbine that powers America. A State of the Union address alone can keep the Northeast warm and toasty through the harshest polar vortex. One Pelosi quote.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Thank God for surge protectors. Since Ben Franklin was one of the first to experiment with electricity, he was one of the first we plugged in. Coming online soon on the East Coast, our 600-megawatt Jefferson generator. So close to Washington, D.C., it will be able to power most of the East Coast. Founding Fathers Electric, turning filthy liberal lies into electricity since 1933.
When you dance like nobody is watching. And when you call Glenn, talk like the NSA and IRS are listening. Because most likely they are.
Guess who?
And they haven't had their daily dose of irreverent, insulting sarcasm today. We're counting on you. Call the show now.
So as long as I'm talking about a bunch of whiny liberals who got degrees in how to be whiny liberals, let's head off to those wage whiners, kind of a tongue twister. Okay, so, of course, the protesters that are out there demanding a livable wage, and just like the Black Lives Matter thing, most of these protesters in the end turn out to be people who have nothing to do with the cause whatsoever. They just are professional protesters. So, okay. Just this weekend, we saw hashtag Black Lives Matter Brigade shut down that interstate, and I just explained that to you. So now, storming into bars and restaurants and locking themselves into concrete-filled barrels and so on. These same people, the same people, are now professional activists now pushing for a wage increase, a livable wage increase. Now, first, I'd like to ask these people, these professional, I'm speaking specifically now to the professional protesters, okay? What are you complaining about? You want a living wage. You're living at home off of mommy and daddy. And some of you don't live at home off of mommy and daddy. Instead, you live off of the government dole. You found a way to get on welfare and other such garbage like that, and you're living off the government dole. So what are you protesting for people? Well, it's social justice because they're living. Tell you what, here's a great idea. Quit mooching off of other people. You get out there and make your own way in life like a responsible adult is supposed to be doing. How about that? It turns out the very people that are protesting a living wage for McDonald's employees and people like that are mooching off of somebody else, whether it's their family, whether they're mooching off their friends, whether they're mooching off of you and me through government programs. These are professional protesters who at best, when they do get a job, are probably just working as a barista somewhere, but most of the time they're just mooching off of whatever they can get from other people. And they don't understand the concept of get out there, work hard, achieve something. But no, those poor people that aren't earning a living wage. We've had it, once again, kind of like what I opened the program with, which I don't want to get into all over again. It's not that complicated. It's really simple. So let me uncomplicate this. When you got out of high school, you were supposed to have goals. And it's not too late. It's never too late. Set yourself a goal. I don't care how old you are. Work hard. And even if you never ultimately achieve your goal, I mean in the highest sense of achieving your goal, even if you only make it partway there, that's better than mooching off of other people. You work hard, you achieve, you create with your own two hands, and what you create with your own two hands belongs to you. So if you find yourself at 35 years old flipping burgers for the dollar menu, don't blame somebody else, don't blame your boss, don't blame McDonald's. You weren't supposed to be there anymore. You made a mistake somewhere along the way. You weren't supposed to still be there. Now, not everybody in life is going to make a lot of money, and that's okay. Americans still live richer than the rest of the world. So even those people who don't make a lot of money still are better off than most of the rest of the world. But you were not at 35 years old supposed to be flipping burgers for the dollar menu. That's not where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be doing something else. That's what young people who are getting out of school and getting their first jobs are supposed to be doing. Or people who are still in high school and college and just need a part-time job. That's what they're earning. The rest of you are supposed to work yourself beyond that. That's the answer to that. Get yourself some skills. And your education is not supposed to be like the past couple of topics that I just hit. Well, we're going to discuss social issues and gender-neutral issues and cross-gendered issues. That's what you're going to school for? Where's your skill? Well, I could become a social worker. No, give me a skill. Get a skill. Get out there. Work hard. Work your way up the ladder. Go as far as you can go. Keep your goals realistic. And that is how you make something out of your life. And by the way, that is not somebody else's responsibility. So here, they're going to love this. So if you're still a professional protester living off of mommy and daddy or the government dole, you're just an annoying loser. You're not just a loser. You've become an annoying loser.
For thousands of years, people have practiced meditation for spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. But from a scientific perspective, how exactly does meditating affect your body? Does it really do anything? It all starts in the brain. During meditation, brain scans see increased activity in regions directly correlated with decreased anxiety and depression, along with increased pain tolerance. The default mode network, in particular, is activated when one's mind is at rest and not focusing on the outside world, and has been found to improve memory, self-awareness, and goal setting. Want to be more caring to your friends and family? When scientists compared the brains of Buddhist monks to new meditators, they found the region of the brain associated with empathy to be much more pronounced in the monks. It also literally changes your brain waves, and we can measure these frequencies. Meditators have higher levels of alpha waves, which have been shown to reduce feelings of negative mood, tension, sadness, and anger. And if that wasn't enough, it also physically changes our brain shape and size. Studies found that after 8 weeks of a meditation program, gray matter was more dense in areas associated with learning, memory processing, and emotion regulation. And yet the amygdala, which deals with stress, blood pressure, and fear, had decreased gray matter. When we look at the entire body, not only do we see decreased blood pressure, but it can also increase the variability of your heart rate. And while this may sound harmful, it actually plays a critical role in properly transporting oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout your body. Think you're getting sick? In a study where both meditators and non-meditators were given the flu virus, meditators were able to produce a greater number of antibodies and had increased immune function. If we go a little deeper, we can even see changes on a cellular level. Your chromosomes have protective protein complexes called telomeres, which help reduce damage to your DNA and lower cell death. And a shortened telomere length has been linked to several diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and cancer. Amazingly, when cancer survivors completed a meditation program, their bodies showed significant increases in telomere length. It's believed that psychological intervention, particularly decreasing stress, has a direct effect on the enzyme telomerase, which has been shown to counteract shortening by adding DNA to the shrinking telomeres. Of course, meditation is not a substitute for other medical advice or a healthy lifestyle. We don't want you leaving this video thinking it will cure cancer. But much like hitting the gym can grow your muscles and increase your overall health, it seems that meditation may be a way of working out your brain with extra health benefits. And since your brain controls, well, all of you, why not relax and say, every once in a while?
Did you hear? The government is giving away free guns. Yes, free guns. Gun manufacturers around the nation will be mandated to give every citizen a free gun with ammunition. As you know, the U.S. Constitution states that you have a right to bear arms. And since we've been told that anything that is a right, like healthcare, is given to you by the government for free, then that must mean that soon you'll be able to pick up your free gun. And since free contraceptives are also a right, then that means you get free bullets too. Yes, right now the U.S. government is borrowing money from China and future generations and raising taxes on the mega wealthy just to make sure that you get your free gun guaranteed under the Constitution. Because now anything that's a right in this country is given to you for free. Healthcare's a right, and you have the right to bear arms. It's your right.
Welcome to the Church of Global Warming.
Sorry, I just came in to get out of the cold. You don't mind, do you?
Well, you know, the cold outside is due to global warming.
Wait, wasn't this the same church that said that this part of the world was going to be a sandy desert by now?
Global warming works in mysterious ways.
Right, kind of like God works in mysterious ways.
Hey, careful how you talk about the Obama.
You know, I think I'll just wait outside and suffer in the driving blizzard. Besides, it's freezing cold in here.
That's because global warming throws over the wind turbine blades in the clouds, and snow and ice cover the solar panels, you idiot!
Do yourself a favor. Don't just listen to the show. See what Glenn's talking about at boldrepublic.com. There you can watch the show live on YouTube or download the show and listen to it later. Now let's get back in there. Here's Glenn Woods.
last half hour-ish or so of the program. My name is Glenn Woods. Bold Republic's on. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget, you can always go to my website, which is boldrepublic.com, to find out what I'm talking about. Also catch up on old programs. Don't forget, front page, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my email address, YouTube page, all the links are right there on my front page. It's all right there at boldrepublic.com. So, okay. Story I've been wanting to get to for a while, so finally I get to move it up in this stack here. Here we go. Feds move to ban all fried foods at daycare centers. Now you might think, well, federally run daycare center. By the way, there should be no such thing as a federally run or a state run or a city run daycare center. Look, they work hard, and I'm serious about this. They work hard to make it as difficult as possible for privately run daycare centers to start up. And a lot of times, I've always known, no matter where I've ever lived, I've known moms who are at home, and the family could use a few extra bucks, and so there's some kids in the neighborhood, and so they'll babysit the kids while the parents are at school. And it really works out great because the mom is somebody in the neighborhood that everybody knows anyway. The kids already know the lady. She lives right up the road there. They get to see her all the time. So it's a great way to do it, but no, we got to stop this. No, we have to have rules and regulations. Even the privately run daycare centers would be subject to this. Here's the story. It reads, "Fear not, citizens. The government is here to save you from yourselves once again." And you didn't know that you need saving from yourself. And in keeping with the Remember the Children's theme, the Department of Agriculture is submitting new guidelines for food served at daycare centers. Now, did you know that that was part of the job of the Department of Agriculture? Now you do. Including private homes. Let me do that again. Including private homes, which qualify for federal funding. So here's how this works. And this is how they get you. If you're working out of a private home as a daycare center, and as a daycare center in a private home, you are tempted to take federal funding, which you can get, believe it or not. Don't do it. One of my favorite sayings of all time, rule 1 in doing a deal with the devil: don't. Here's one of the reasons why. Because you're taking this funding, we get to set the rules. And even what you feed those kids. We're going to start telling you what to feed the kids. U.S. Department of Agriculture is proposing strict new dietary guidelines for daycares that would prohibit them from frying food that is served to children. Child care providers would also be formally required to provide children with water upon request throughout the day. So it's no longer up to you who's taking care of these kids now. Every little thing is going to be regulated. They would face restrictions on how much apple juice and orange juice to serve. They want to be involved in everything. So those of you who ran private daycare centers, did you take that federal money? They want into your house now. One of the more notable provisions would restrict daycares from frying food on site and discourage them from serving prepackaged fried food such as chicken fingers from the grocery store. And kids love that. I loved that when I was a kid. Pull the chicken fingers out of the freezer, pop them into the microwave. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's really good stuff. Ketchup on it is always really good, but there's several other things that you can dip it into. Oh, man, that's good. Do you want to take that away from kids? Quote in here, while facilities would not be permitted under this proposed rule to prepare foods on site by frying them, the USDA wrote in the Federal Register, store-bought, catered, or pre-fried foods can still contribute to large amounts of calories, and on they go with all their rules and regulations. The USDA meal standards also include other proposed changes, such as allowing tofu as a meat alternative. So here now remember I told you about the EPA? The EPA is filled with a bunch of environmental extremists. They could not get done what they wanted to get done by protesting and by suing. So they just joined the EPA. Environmental extremists joined the EPA. That's why the EPA is out of control. Well, similar extremists got into the Food and Drug Administration, And they're looking for any way that they can to get control of what happens in your home. So if you are someone who takes care of kids and you're being tempted by city, federal, or state money, I'll say it again because it's one of my favorite sayings of all time. Rule 1 in doing a deal with the devil: don't.
This is Bruce at Marshall Jewelry here at Gillette, and I hope that everyone had a wonderful Christmas. I'd like to give a special thanks to all of you who shopped with us this holiday season. We truly appreciate your trust and confidence. If you were hoping for jewelry and didn't get what you wanted, now is a great time to stop by. We still have a huge selection to choose from. Our cases are still full because, quite frankly, Marianne and I buy too much. As a result, we still have lots of beautiful jewelry looking for a home. Come see the great selection of prices at Marshall Jewelry, where she'll love it, guaranteed.
To my darling wife and kids, I'm writing to you what might be the last thing I ever say. I'm trapped in the bathroom, you see. The toilet is clogged. If I open the door right now, it might be the end for us all. I think it might go all the way down the sewer line. Maybe the clog even goes to the septic. Well, I'm not sure if it needs to be cleared or pumped. Please call Roto-Rooter right now. They're the only qualified service in Northeast Wyoming. Just go find the card for Roto-Rooter under the magnet on the refrigerator. The guy's name is Brian. The phone number is 307-686-1573. If you don't get this note in time, I love you.
Hey, aren't those gun-free zone signs just great? I mean, all you have to do is just take this sign and put it up on your building like so, and voila! Nobody will come in or rob and shoot up the place because you got the sign. Well, if it works for guns, why not other things like bank robber free zone sign at every bank in America? No terrorism sign. See, all you have to do is stick a no Islamic Jihad sign on every single building in the financial district of New York City, the power grid, our food supply. There you go. That's it. Safe as can be. Here, just have your child wear this No Kidnapping This Kid t-shirt and voila, your kid is safe. Now, why didn't we think of this years ago?
Hey, Frank, you're actually gonna fall for that hook, are you? I'm just so hungry, and the lure looks so good. Yeah, well, just look up through the ice hole at that guy. Hey, he's got all the latest gear, doesn't he? He's so warm and comfortable, and the top window sportsman clothing, and fishing pole, and the best lures, nice comfortable chairs, coolers, warmers. He's got it all. I can't stand it. I'm gonna bite the hook. Are you seriously gonna fall for that? No, it's just that it has to be warmer up there above the ice than down here in the water. Yeah, and that frying pan he's got on the fire's a lot more.
Rocky Mountain Discount Sports has everything that the ice fisherman needs for the winter. Lines and lures, rods and reels. Special outfits to keep you warm, tents to keep the wind away, and the right kind of lures for winter fishing. Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, 4706 South Douglas Highway in Gillette, Wyoming. Open Monday through Saturday, 8 till 9, Sunday 9 to 6.
We here at the radio station are firmly convinced the pod people have taken over the minds of your elected officials. Well, it's either that or they're just that stupid and crazy. Seriously, which is more plausible? I'll let Glenn explain this. Here he is.
So I found another story covering the story that I told you about earlier, H&R Block, no one can understand the new Obamacare tax code. Now, let's get back to, once again, how I like to uncomplicate things. The best way to get things done is the simplest way to get things done. If you make it so complicated that nobody understands what they're doing, then obviously the whole damn thing is a mess. Stop doing it that way. Why would you work hard to make something as complicated as possible? And yet that's exactly what's, and that's supposed to be a better way to do it. Something I was thinking about over the weekend, before I read this story to you, something I was thinking about this weekend was, it's interesting to me, always fascinating, I mean, not really interesting, to watch how businesses around America decide on a new product. Like, for instance, let's take big business. A big corporation has test markets. They go out and test products to see, will people buy this? And if they do, what sort of adjustments do we have to make to whatever the product is? They find every little adjustment they have to make it something that you're really going to think is cool, you'll buy, from the font on whatever the product is you're buying to the size, the weight, the smell, the color. It doesn't matter what the product is. Now, Then they will go out and test market it to see, is this working? They even test business models. If a company has an idea for a new branch of their company, they'll go out and test it to see if it actually works. And if it doesn't, they just quit doing it. Well, that idea was neat on paper, but it didn't work. It also happens every day without people knowing that they're really doing it. Small business people are popping up in America, small American towns all over the place. Well, big cities too. People just keep popping up all over the place, trying new and innovative ways to do things. And most of the time it doesn't work. But every so often someone actually stumbles across something that does work. And that's how things improve in a capitalist system. Now, that's not what government does, which is one of the reasons why I don't want government solutions to problems. That's not at all what government does. Here's what government does. Government shows up with an idea. They try to sell it to you. And in most cases, the American people say it's a horrible idea. Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyway. And we're going to make it a law. And you have no choice. You will comply. Resistance is futile. And so they just launched the idea. So let's take, for example, Obamacare. Well, Obamacare was Romneycare first, right? So you think, well, it was successful in Massachusetts. No, it wasn't. I was in Massachusetts at the time. And if it wasn't for a yearly bailout to the tune of $400-some million a year, it would have never worked. So obviously that's not the way to go. We should have never brought it nationally. Let the states try new ideas. That's one of the advantages of having 50 states. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. President. 57 states. We have all these different ways that we can try things, and if something doesn't work, it doesn't work, but we tried it. That's a great idea. That's a lousy idea. Fine. But especially where your federal government's concerned, no. We're just going to take this idea. It's a great idea. We're going to ram it down your throat. And when it doesn't work, they can't seem to figure out, well, this isn't working, so obviously we should just stop doing it. That's not what happens. Well, we need more money. We need more rules and regulations. People are not signing up for Obamacare. We need to force them to. People are signing up, but they can't afford it, so they're dropping out, so we need to force them to sign up. Again, and make those payments. On and on it goes. And they just make it, it never goes through a test market first. And then if it does make it out there across the country and fails, they don't know enough to take it apart. So, okay, here's the story. H&R Block, the nation's largest retail tax preparation company, warns that the newly released Obamacare tax code, officially called the Affordable Care Act, the Unaffordable Care Act, is likely to confuse millions of taxpayers who try to tackle their tax returns in 2014. Quoting here, now that the Unaffordable Care Act has made the health care a tax issue, think about that now. Your health care is now a tax issue. No one can understand it. Now that's a quote. Who said that? The CEO of H&R Block. Now that the Affordable Care Act has made health care a tax issue, no one can understand it. And the former IRS commissioner agrees and cautions that the new tax requirements will be, quote, shock to the system, especially affecting low-income earners who have never itemized their tax returns before. In other words, you filled out the 1040-EZ. You didn't itemize anything. The tax preparation giant with 24 million tax clients worldwide reports that the Obamacare tax rules now constitute the biggest tax code change in 20 years, and confusing. And so they're actually starting to write commercials now and put them on the air, television and radio commercials, telling people, come on in, we'll help you with it. This thing was supposed to be easier. This thing was supposed to be more affordable. We were all supposed to understand this. How's that working for you?
When thinking about the topic of whether to allow people to have truly free choice, it reminds me of a story from my own history. When I was a sophomore in high school, I went to an all-boys Catholic school, and Father Ray, who was teaching us religion, wanted to illustrate to us why it is that God gave human beings free will. And here was the story he used. He said, imagine you were walking down the street, a beautiful woman is walking towards you, and you have the power to snap your fingers and make her fall instantly, madly in love with you. Just imagine you had that ability. Of course, we were imagining that ability as we were 14-year-old high school students. And he said, what would be even greater than that ability? Now, of course, we're thinking about that too, 14-year-old boys. And he said, no. What would be even greater than that ability is if she fell in love with you completely of her own accord. That's a really profound moral insight. Now, Father Ray's point was that that explains why God gave us free will. Could God have commanded our obedience? Of course, he's God. But that would have been demeaning both to us and to him. It would have been to not respect us as moral agents. But we can put the religious part of that aside and just think about that core moral insight. What it means to respect a person as a moral agent is to give that person the opportunity to choose, even when you know that sometimes they'll make bad choices, sometimes they'll choose things they shouldn't, sometimes they'll choose things that even they themselves will regret later. Respecting the dignity of a human being is giving that person the freedom to choose good and sometimes, yes, bad. And that moral insight is really at the core of classical liberalism.
Come on, don't act like you don't know how this works. Glenn sits in a padded room, talks to himself, and guess what? You're the voices in his head. It's really creepy, but it works. Let's get back in there. Glenn Woods is back on the air.
Last 7 minutes of the program, Bold Republic is on. Thanks for joining me. I really had to struggle here to find out which story do I hit you guys with last. Well, tin hatters out there, get your tin hats on. This is your tin hat moment, right? I'm warning you guys in advance. If you got a tin hat out there, this is the time to grab the tin hat and put it on your head. Ready? Every moment to be ready here. Okay. So apparently, Air Force UFO files have hit the web. Ooh, UFO files. And this is from Fox News. So from eyewitness accounts of trails of light streaking across the sky to sightings of flying saucers, now amateur Mulder and Scullies alike can see the truth is really out there by poring over about 130,000 pages of declassified UFO documents that are now available online, reports militarytimes.com. That's militarytimes.com. After spending decades filing Freedom of Information Act requests, UFO enthusiasts posted declassified records from Project Blue Book, the U.S. Air Force's records on alleged UFO and extraterrestrial sightings in a massive database. Now, I wonder how much of this is just going to be blacked out. How much is going to be redacted? That'll be interesting to see. You know, they're going to get whole pages that are nothing but blacked out. I bet you that's going to happen. But okay, all right. And, you know, my opinion is, while I do think there is life out there, just so you know, look how big the universe is and how many stars that we're aware of, and we're finding out that planets are actually quite common. I'm sure there's life out there. Have we been visited or not? I have no idea, and I see no proof of it one way or the other. But I'm not saying no either. I'm saying, ready for this? I don't know. And yet most of the UFO sightings, when I look at them, At the same time that people were seeing flying saucers, you know what the military was testing? Round vehicles. You can see photographs of them on the internet. Airplanes that were round. The first helicopter attempts were actually just big round vehicles. So that was the start. Later on, UFOs became more triangle shaped. What are stealth fighters? What are drones? Military fighter drones. Triangle shaped. So what are they doing? They're seeing vehicles coming. Area 51 UFOs. You mean Area 51, the test facility? Okay. Well, the Air Force project was based out of the Project Blue Book. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio ran from 1947 to 1969. Through the project, the Air Force amassed a total of 12,618 recorded sightings. Out of that, 701 incidents remain unidentified. University of Colorado called the report Science Study of Unidentified Flying Objects Found. There has been no evidence indicating that sightings categorized as unidentified are actually extraterrestrial. According to a 1985 Air Force fact sheet, Project Blue Book officially ended in December 17, 1969. Do you remember, for those of us who are old enough to remember, there used to be a television show based on Project Blue Book where there were two Air Force guys who traveled the country investigating UFO sightings. Been so long since I've even thought about that television series. Okay. While the documents did not shed any new light on UFO sightings, the story reads, they do not quiet the fascination, of course. Quoting here, people have this fascination when it comes to UFOs. We can have our speculation. That's it. Top secret. We simply don't know. So while Project Blue Book files have been long available to the public on microfilm, in case you didn't know, at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., this marks the first time the complete collection of declassified documents has been made available through a searchable online database. One thing that may disappoint UFO fans is the scat reference to Roswell, New Mexico in the database. Conspiracy theorists claim U.S. military, well, you know what Roswell is. According to the fact sheet, the National Archives has been unable to locate any documents among the project's records which discuss Roswell, New Mexico. Now, you know what the conspiracy theorists are going to do? They didn't put that in there. Why? That proves that something's going on. See, the lack of evidence is evidence to them. So, okay. Roswell location itself does make a brief appearance in the files. The database included a few blurry, always blurry like Bigfoot, of lights in the sky that were taken in New Mexico, 1949. Additionally, 1950 documents mentions airmen at Roswell reporting a bluish-white circular object 10 feet in diameter and sped by about 8,000 feet. So these things constantly a mystery. So, okay, let me go back to where you can find this. If you're interested, again, militarytimes.com is where you go. militarytimes.com. And I'm clicking on the website now. And that's where all of these files have been piled together. And it says right there on its front page, Air Force UFO files hit the web. So they've taken all of those things that have been put on, they used to have to go down to the archives and load up. And remember those old, again, for those who were old enough to remember, you go to the library and you put the microfilm in that little thing. You would turn the wheel and picture, photograph after photograph of the newspaper would go by, and it would be projected onto a big screen so you can read it. Okay, no more. All right there on the interweb for you. So it's going to be fun to listen to what the conspiracy theorists come up with over the next decade or so based on all these files. All right, we're just getting started. Tomorrow's a whole nother day, and the week is young. We'll do it again on Tuesday. See you then.